Hello everybody. As you will have gathered from the lack of content on the channel, I stopped making FE material quite some time ago. Before that happened, I was working on a video discussing Flat Earth as a cult. Although the video itself went unfinished, I did complete the script and was able to produce a short introduction video with the generous help of Angel of Attack, who had agreed to narrate. I was able to present this script material the other day on Jose JG Gonzales' channel, and this video is a mirror of that presentation and the discussion we had there, which included input from several ex-Flat Earthers, including Jose himself. I'm hoping that some of you who will have missed it for various reasons might be interested in hearing it. Although I missed the opportunity to provide the material in its intended format, I think the live presentation added another dimension to it, thanks to having live feedback and hearing the insight on offer from people who had fallen for Flat Earth. As a result of the panel discussion format, the video is very long. With the exception of chopping off the lead up and a little moment where Jose and I are deciding how to proceed, everything else is here. Towards the end, there is a more typical interaction when Flat Earther Chris Berry joins the panel and talks about the horizon and Black Swan. While it adds nothing to the discussion about cults, it does exemplify behaviour outlined during the presentation, so I've kept it in. As this is a presentation of written material, there are no visuals after the introduction where Jose plays some archive material and my introduction video, so you can safely listen to it without having to watch. I hope you enjoy the discussion and would be interested to hear any feedback, be it about the material itself or just in general regarding the subject of the cult status of Flat Earth, so please feel free to comment below. Thanks to Jose for hosting me, link to his channel is in the description, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. See you guys around.
I got two little clips that I found and then we'll jump into your clip. Is that cool?
Yep. No problem. Sure.
Excellent. All right. I got over here. If you want to click and see my screen share, the audience is seeing it on YouTube. They should be able to also hear it. This one in the archives, Cults, one in 1970. This is the Cult in 1970. It's just a little clip that I kind of in this timestamp. I just want to play maybe 30 seconds or a minute. And it's still very relevant today, you know, from the 1970s. I'm going to play it in 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Social. Someone who doesn't have friends and is invited to a meeting. And it happens that that meeting is a John Birch Society meeting, or that meeting is a very...
Sorry, Jose, I don't know if it's the same for YouTube, but that's really quiet listening in here.
Really? Yeah. Now, on your end, how is... You should, in your PC, you should have a volume thingy. You should be able to raise your volume.
Oh, you are like really loud, perfect, clear, but the actual video is really quiet.
And you got all the volume up on your screen share watch. When you're watching the screen share, what you watch, in the bottom right, there's a little speaker icon where you can raise your volume or lower it.
Let's check. It's sitting about 80%, so it shouldn't be that bad, but I'll put it up as much as I can.
Yeah, put it up. It's a little quieter than usual, but it's not that bad. So I'm gonna go mute. We're gonna play a little bit. You know, it should be heard okay for YouTube. All right, here we go.
Friends and is invited to a meeting, and it happens that that meeting is a John Birch Society meeting, or that meeting is a very enthusiastic religious meeting, or that meeting is a radical political meeting. But basically they go to the meeting for a cup of coffee and some cookies and some good fellowship. Then in order to maintain the good fellowship, in order to stay in the good graces of the newfound friends, these people gradually will adopt the ideology of the group. And in fact, the group very often will take it easy on the newcomers and not expect them to believe some of the more way out ideas until after they become solidly entrenched in the group. And there's sort of a process by which you adopt the ideology, and they adopt you as a central acting member of the group rather than just a beginner.
Yeah, but people like the SLA or the...
You heard that, right? What do you think about that? Very, very relevant, right? I mean, it's kind of what's
Yeah,
going on in certain groups in the internet today.
definitely applies, and I'm kind of smiling because the material that I put together, um, it basically covers a set of criteria, and one of those criteria is essentially what they call the soft sell. So it's all about treating you nicely, bringing you into the fold gradually, giving you a safe space, that kind of thing, and then gradually working you around to the point where you follow all the dogma or whatever you want to say. So it's like spot on.
Cults
Yeah,
do
yeah.
have an element of control that quote unquote religion doesn't have. You can freely come and go in a religion, but a cult kind of traps you.
I mean, yeah, in part, in part, you got a point. Go click on my screen share. I'm about to share. I got two more clips I want to share, and then we'll open the discussion. Lemon, if you want to click on my screen share, you should be able to see it. Now that was from 1970. This one will be now from 1980. Click on my screen, Lemon, so you can see my screen share.
I can see it now.
You can see it. Yeah. All right. This is from 1980. Title on this is from the archives is Cult Explosion. I'll play a minute or two. I mean, I didn't hear the whole thing, but in around this timestamp, they start mentioning certain groups that can be considered as cults. You guys let me know. Hopefully the audio is okay. Here we go.
I had a testimony of Mormonism. I knew that Joseph Smith was a prophet. I believed the Book of Mormon to be the Word of God. I believed that there was a prophet on this earth today.
I really investigated, I prayed about it, and I believed with all my heart that it was the true church.
These two young men came to me, and they said that they represented the only true church. I didn't know that at the time, that there are many, many people running around saying, we are the only true church.
I believe that the Christian was really the lost person. I believe that even though you worshiped my God, you did a rather bad job of it, that you were not really skilled in knowing how to interpret God's law, because you only had one book to work with. You had the Holy Bible. What we relied upon was a series of Mormon scriptures, the Book of Mormon, the Pearl of Great Price, and the Doctrine and Covenants. In there, God truly revealed his word to man.
The great danger, I think, in Scientology or in any other cult is the fact that all of the cultists believe that theirs is the only way.
I really felt proud to be a Christian Scientist. I was taught that we had the highest revelation, higher even than the Gospels, and that other religions were nice, but they would eventually find the full and complete truth.
The Jehovah's Witnesses believe that the 144,000 are the only ones who can really interpret the Bible.
We also believe that all other religions and churches were of the devil.
Any people outside of the Worldwide Church of God were considered to be pagans and heathen and totally outside of God. They could not possibly be Christians.
And that he and his beliefs alone are the true gospel that Jesus brought to this earth.
And that goes on and on and on. Those are just a few examples of kind of personal testimonies of people that have been or are related to somebody in those religions, per se. What are your thoughts on that? How about that?
All I'm going to say right now is that sounds incredibly familiar coming from a certain person who's on the panel right now.
Big thank you to Anamorphic Mind. First $5 super chat. Thank you, Anamorphic. I here to stand up and admit I am a member of a cult. Indianapolis pulled me in, and now I can stop rooting for them in football. Please help me. Thank you. Great comment, Anamorphic Mind. Lemon Bird, what do you think about that clip that I just played?
Well, cults are known by a couple key characteristics: the control over the members, an esoteric, secret interpretation of the foundational scriptures of the parent religion. A group of people that form around an individual, a group of support for that individual and their interpretation of the scriptures or whatever, that is different from the founding religion. Man-centered in a way versus a spiritual center. Cults tend to be very man-centered, and focused in very day-to-day mundane tasks as opposed to spiritually focused. There's a couple things that differentiate them in the away from true religion, quote unquote, versus a cult that has this very particular interpretation of the scriptures. But the dividing line between the two is very, very thin in some cases.
Also, I want to welcome everybody else over here. We got Alkay, Bogov, Ortiz Live, Eugenus, Kawasaki, Fitisis, and Snesley Wipes. I got one more clip to play, and this is Alkay's clip on his channel, and the title is Cult of Personality.
Just a sec.
Yep.
Before you actually play it,
yep.
If I can just quickly give background a little bit.
Perfect. Yeah.
Which is, the plan was to do a full video, and I never completed the video, but I wrote out the script for it, and the script consisted of an introduction, a list of criteria, an additional piece of information, and then like a conclusion. And this video that you're going to play was the only piece of video I did, which was a video to match the introduction, and it's narrated by Angel of Attack, and it was going to serve as both the introduction to the full-length video and as a kind of separate trailer to get people interested.
Nice. That's what I thought. I watched it. I said, like, this is kind of, is incomplete. It's some kind of a little introduction, a little bit of a snippet, or a little bit of a taste. So that's what you had in plan. You just never completed, never came to fruition.
Just what I was able to put together at the time before I ended up, just kind of falling away from it all. And so all I've got left now is the script. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what I was going to suggest to you, by the way, is that, obviously you've got your own plans, your show or whatever, but having started with this, I was going to say, you could go through the different sections and I can read them out, and then you can discuss the sections, those criteria one at a time.
Oh, yeah.
If you like.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's good. I mean, right. But we should play the whole clip first, right? And then we'll break it down.
No, this is just an introduction. What I'm saying is after the fact, I've got the script there, so that I can kind of read out the actual material that would have been in the video, discussing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is just basically, a list of criteria, and it's like a brief explanation, if you like, of the criteria, followed by a follow-up to say, well, in Flat Earth, we can see this criteria, in certain ways.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Yeah.
All right.
We'll play this out, and then we'll take it from there. Yep.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody on YouTube. We're gonna play this kind of introduction to the actual topic on today's. Enjoy, everybody. Click on my screen share, and here we go. 3, 2, 1. Wait, I gotta click something over here on YouTube, and here we go now.
While cults are not an exclusively modern-day phenomenon, when we think of a cult in modern times, it is usually something we associate with a relative handful of groups who became famous in more recent decades, most of which we associate with their respective cult leaders. Individuals who were somehow able to convince their adherents that, while the rest of the world was against them, only they were in possession of the truth and could be trusted to free the minds of the disaffected and offer a path to salvation. Jim Jones, David Koresh, Charles Manson, Marshall Applewhite. They and others like them have all made their mark on history as they were able to indoctrinate large groups of people from all walks of life into holding beliefs and taking part in rituals and practices that range from the bizarre and unusual to outright evil. It seems to defy logic that groups of people can be swayed in this way, and for most of us, it is beyond comprehension that simple, empty promises and vitriolic rhetoric can so easily sway someone to the point where they no longer behave rationally and fall into the rabbit hole of surrendering themselves to the control of complete strangers who ultimately care nothing for their followers and are simply feeding their own ego while lining their pockets with the sale of a little snake oil for the soul. Such odd behavior in our fellow men and women have naturally piqued the interest of many social scientists over the years, and as a result of their studies, there are some commonalities which have been identified in both those who are susceptible to joining a cult and the way in which others can successfully indoctrinate them. Taking a cue from this research, in this video we are going to look at whether the modern-day Flat Earth movement on YouTube matches sufficient criteria to allow it to be classified as a cult.
Excellent, excellent, man. Really well put together. Very cool.
Thank you. I was actually really looking forward to making that whole video, but it was a combination of reasons, but a big part of it was, first of all, some computer issues at the time, and then looking at the actual work behind gathering the material. It was going to take a long time, you know, to get the supporting video that matched everything that I was going to say. It would take a long time to put it together, and kind of hit the point a while back where I just kind of gave up on making material for Flat Earth. You know, I haven't put up anything on my channel for a while now, and when I looked back at the possibility of producing it again, because I still think it could have just generally made for a good video, a lot of the material would be really difficult to obtain now, you know, like clips of certain flat earthers saying and doing certain things. You know, a lot of that material's been deleted from YouTube, or channel owners maybe, you know, don't have a channel anymore, or they've made some videos private, and, you know, various different issues like that. So it would be difficult to make it into a video format, just in the sense of trying to find specific material that relates to everything.
Yeah, and for someone that actually keeps some certain anonymity with the person, like you don't sitting in front of the camera, you know, showing your face, so it's a little tougher. You must find, you know, you had to find certain either images or video clips to play in the background as you narrate and talk about it. So it's a trickier one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I hear you, man. You should just put your face. Show your face, man.
Show your face. I suppose that, you know, in these uncertain times, I suppose I would have an excuse for perhaps not showing all of my face.
Right. I'm telling you, man. Before we go into like the segments and the parts and break it down, let me get a quick broad thoughts on the panelists right now. If you want to give us your thoughts on the clips that we just played, or your knowledge about cults so far, just take a minute and give us your thoughts. Bogov, you got something to say before we'll start breaking it down? Earth is live. See here. Eugenus.
Greetings, sir.
Hello. Got any thoughts on the cult topic?
Yeah, I studied cults for a while. This is a very interesting topic. I studied cults for about 7 or 8 years. How flat Earth applies is a thought I've had for quite some time. So it should be interesting to talk about it.
Very good. Kawasaki Ninja, what are your thoughts? I never heard your comments or thoughts about cults.
I did not see the video that was presented, so therefore I cannot comment.
Yeah, but not necessarily about the video that we played, just as a knowledge, you just raw knowledge about cults. What is your thoughts about it?
Cults are people trying to govern how other people think, aren't they?
This is your thought, Yeah, that's your thought is a question, I guess.
In general, yes. There's an element of control with most cults that isn't with quote unquote freely chosen religions or groups or whatever, yes. There's an element of control there with the cult and the connotation of what we think of when we think of a cult anyway.
All right. Snesley, are you there? You haven't spoken the last few days that you joined, but it's cool. It's cool. Hang in there and listen to us. All right. Well, I think if we break it down by section segments, analyze it a little better, we might get our thoughts better put together. Okay, you want to take it out there, man?
Yeah. Interesting to hear that Hugh has been studying cults, because that's not the case for me. It was just a topic I decided to delve into for the sake of this. An idea I'd been thinking about for a while, but maybe somebody with a bit more depth in that material. It would be good to see what their reaction's going to be to some of this stuff.
As for the background, the viewing on YouTube, I'm gonna put a few memes, I guess. If anybody got something related to the actual topic in the meanwhile. But if anybody have an actual image of specifics of what we're talking about, either citation clips, text or something, post it in the Daily Boom, and I'll put them up for YouTube for
now. Yeah, sorry, just let me know when you want me to start.
Go for it, man. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'll be feeding the visuals, as you take it, man.
No problem. So as I said, I'm literally reading from a script here. It was meant to be video material, and each section is basically two parts, which is just a general description of whatever criteria, and then a follow up with here's some examples from Flat Earth, basically. So we'll see how it goes. So section 1 was called "The Struggle is Real." So many former cult members cite periods of transition, facing some difficulty in life, experiencing some failure or defeat, and so on, as a key element in their susceptibility to groupthink. This can come in various forms, be it a failed marriage, financial difficulty, failure to capitalise on perceived talents and skills, any number of negative experiences leading to a low point in their lives. A good example to use here, because we come back to it later on, would be that of failed actors and musicians, struggling to get by, failing to realise their dreams of fame and fortune, unable to make rent or strike out on their own, possibly facing life on the streets, some of whom may even turn to illegal drugs and petty crime. These personal struggles make them feel connected to those with similar issues and problems, resulting in a likelihood of social bonding due to mutual understanding of the trials and tribulations they've faced in life. Depending on the circumstances, their fear, desperation, or self-loathing can put them in a vulnerable state of mind, more open to alternative ideas which are given to them as a solution to their problems or as part of a larger answer to the reason for the struggles they've experienced. So, in Flat Earth, I might have to justify some of what I'm about to say here in a minute, but anyway, it's no secret that many of those who advocate Flat Earth on YouTube are unemployed. Many have financial struggles and exhibit similar social behaviours online, including the use of recreational drugs. Some have criminal records, many will beg for money, some still live with their parents well into their 30s and 40s. Most exhibit problems with literacy and numeracy, suggesting a lack of education or learning difficulties. Taken individually, these traits may not seem like much, but it's a notable pattern of behaviours linking them together, which can be considered tied to their social status, both now and possibly in the past. However, when we look a bit deeper at some of the better known channels, we can see similar patterns in their lives leading up to the advent of becoming a flat earther on YouTube. Many channel owners are failed musicians, several are failed actors, others have tried and failed to start their own businesses. Some flat earthers make use of tacky music videos to spread their propaganda in a vain attempt to capitalise on a locked-in audience who share their biased view of the world, making up for the fact that they can't succeed in the public domain. In this way, they gain automatic attention and praise that they would otherwise be unable to achieve through genuine success and talent, satiating their narcissism. There are others who similarly capitalise on their captive audience to create an alternative life for themselves as would-be celebrities, either trying to recapture some lost glory or using their online exposure as a means to try and obtain it. Overall, what we see is an undeniable trend within Flat Earth to attract underachievers who have tried and failed to obtain fame and fortune as a performing artist or a media personality, trying to exploit a perceived talent or skill which in their mind might have led to fame and fortune, but who have now turned to Flat Earth to boost their egos and manipulate their subscribers for financial gain.
Fucking A, yeah. You're right on point. I mean, I agree with you in most of those points. That's my personal opinion, for real.
And just one little, obviously, and as part of the putting this together, I had to make some notes, various people that I would have to reference. And I've got a little list here of some names to share along with that, which is Dell, Mark Sargent, Patricia Steer, Rob Skiba, Nathan Roberts, Jerin, Bob Nobel, Morgell, Nathan Oakley, Anthony Riley, ODD TV, IPS, and Flat Earth Music Man.
Among others, side note, this list, you put it together a while ago, maybe a few years ago, right? So I know there are a few more people that could be added to the list easily today.
Right. And there was another, what's the other guy? Robbie, what's his name? I always forget his name.
David Robinson or Robbie Davidson?
Robbie Davidson, aye. He's
Robbie Davidson.
Failed actor and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's a few in there.
Dean Odell.
Right. So there's going to be a few, obviously, I've maybe not thought of, or, I don't know how relevant they are now, but just as a guideline, you know what I mean? That's some examples just to show I'm not just randomly saying, oh, Flat Earthers are like this, but not given any idea who we're talking about, you know what I mean?
That's great, that's great. Any thoughts from you guys from this point? Agree, disagree, and to what level? Give specifics on what Alke just say. I second what he say almost word by word. I agree with it.
Yeah,
I agree with it too. To be honest with you, I absolutely agree.
Are you talking
Sorry,
about?
Yeah, he's spot on. Most of the things.
It's good. Huge and then lemon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't understand though. Don't cults normally have some sort of leader? I mean, if we're talking about a leaderless cult, then how is this a cult?
Lemon, as I've said it already a couple of times, this is broken down into sections. This section is about the type of people and not just the personality they might have, but
one of the reasons,
circumstances why they might find themselves susceptible to joining cults and so on. So that's what that part is about. It's not about leaders and so on. That'll come later.
Yeah.
So more about the reasons, more about the reasons of why, somebody, entertain the idea of either getting in a cult or starting a cult.
It is interesting to look at when you really analyze it. Another one would be D Marble. You could add to that list. At the Flat Earth Conference 2017, basically a lot of the people just found fame, a small amount of fame, but fame nonetheless. They get to be on stage, they get to have people recognize them, and that sort of that's attractive to people. So it's all part of the big group, that others are opposed to and they don't understand, but we have the truth type of thing. Yes, absolutely spot on with the description there.
About the
sorry.
Let me ask Kawasaki about the circumstances, the reasons on why people entertain the idea about getting in a cult. Do you agree, disagree with any of those, or you just didn't pay attention to the point? Or Lemonbird, if you want to be specific, actually, for in the actual point of the circumstances and reasons.
I was just trying to see where he was going with the leadership portion of, quote unquote, the cult. The only way that I could see a leaderless cult, at least at this stage of the discussion before we go on to Al-Qaed's other points, is if there's some element of control. And if the leaders don't have enough, success or charisma, then, to inspire the people to follow them, then I'm just wondering how there can be a cult following if there's no charisma, no leadership or anything like that. But I guess I'll just have to wait and see what else Al-Qaed is talking about here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very, very strong beginning right there.
I was just going to say, I don't know why, but Nathan Thompson seemed to have missed that list. He should definitely be on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you could be there all day. Sorry.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
Boston wits it.
It's obviously anything that gets said when you're trying to discuss something in general can't apply to everybody, so it's just about looking at certain patterns of behavior that exist,
And some of those that you mentioned and others that haven't been mentioned check a lot of the boxes. There's some people that, I check one box, failed musician that found a topic on what to talk about, and found an audience that can listen to the music and give him feedback, is one in mind. But maybe that same musician, is just doesn't have a job and live with their parents, and they don't have friends, they don't have a social life. So a lot of people check a lot of the boxes, within it.
Is that your background noise?
Yeah, it is. It looks like it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The neighbors are making noise. That's why I'm trying to keep myself on mute until
Oh, it's cool. Just in case it was somebody else with a whole mic. Right. Okay. So you want me to move on?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. So the next section's a bit shorter. It's called "More Flies with Honey." You can probably guess what that applies to. So in order to become a proper movement, you have to recruit more members. A cult looking to grow their numbers by approaching members of the public will often resort to using more subtle and deceptive techniques rather than bombarding them with the full fire and brimstone rhetoric, which is more likely to be heard once fully accepted into the fold. Here as well, they'll use what is known as the soft sell to entice potential recruits into their world of conspiracy, fear and paranoia, while giving a less threatening overview of the cult's belief or practices. So that's just a nice little short description there. And then on the Flat Earth side, while in fact there are many vitriolic exponents of Flat Earth online, message and delivery is ultimately the same for all of them whenever they approach members of the public away from the echo chamber environment of their YouTube channels. Non-flat earthers are given a story designed to encourage them to feel as though the flat earther is merely asking reasonable questions which everyone should consider asking. As a part of the rhetoric, in many cases a carefully crafted monologue designed to direct a person's answers into agreeing with the ideas proposed by the flat earther, a member of the public will be gently encouraged to quote-unquote do their own research and to come and visit the relevant YouTube channel or group to learn more about the movement and the questions that are being asked. After having been subjected to a barrage of convincing sounding lies and half-truths, able to seed some doubt in the minds of those who are not prepared to debate the validity. This is the first stage of actually achieving indoctrination into the modern flat earth movement, a seemingly unassuming sales pitch designed to lead the sheep into the wolves' den. And there are many videos of this technique being employed, and I had a specific plan for this one to share, 3 very specific people rather than some general clips, so I'll just explain that, right? So, first of all, we have Del from Beyond the Imaginary Curve, who started going out and doing these, I'm assuming now famous and well known amongst this group, Flat Earth interviews, the street interviews that he did. And there was if you watch any of that, you'll see exactly that technique I'm talking about getting used, showing specific photographs and placing people in situations where they're in a kind of dichotomy. They have to choose yes or no answers. You know, it's like a manipulation of people's answers and ideas, designed to make them kind of go, oh, you know, like, I don't know this piece of information, or yes, I agree with you, a photo can't be used to prove something, and then later on bamboozling them with something else and saying, well, here's a photo of Earth and you just said you can't prove that it can't be used, so hey, you know, obviously this doesn't work as evidence or proof for the shape of the Earth and so on. So Dell has started out doing that, and his cameraman was John Smith, who changed his name to John Smith Globli later on. John Smith was basically one of Dell's acolytes. He used to spend all his time in Dell's hangouts, along with Ali B and several others. And so when Dell started doing these interviews, he was just his cameraman. But as John has followed Dell around and learned the script, he then started striking out on his own, doing his own street interviews. And he just repeated the exact same material that Dell was repeating. And then, as you may or may not know, John Smith then kind of splintered away from Dell and hooked up with various other flat earthers, including Jason of the Disbury family, and they went on to do the Globli tour, which was originally a UK tour and then became a European tour. And if you watch Jason of the Disbury family, Roxanne and so on, when they were doing this stuff, it's all the same material handed down originally from Dell via John Smith down to Jason, Roxanne and so on, all with banners backing up the same memes that they're, you know, repeating to people in the street and so on. So you see the full snowball effect there of one person indoctrinating another, and that, you know, the way those people are just parroting information that's handed down to them.
It is exactly the same argument they exchange with each other, but the way it's presented by every single one of them is different, but it's actually the same argument. Yeah,
it's not even that different. That's the thing. You know, when you if you watch it, there's very little variation in the, you know, the words they use.
Yeah, very little. Yeah.
You know, it's pretty.
What they
limited.
criticize about the news, there's certain news, you know, news pieces and a lot of channels and a lot of news. They say word by word, exactly the same. They do the same, but they change the words slightly. You know.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, as I say, that the kind of point there is that, you know, when they go out in public, they're going to be all nicey. They're going to try and bring you in softly. And then, of course, what they want you to do is come and visit their YouTube channels, or maybe now Discord servers. In Nathan Thompson's case, you know, at one point it would be the largest flat Earth discussion group in the world. And in Dell's case, there was actually a very specific time when one of the people he spoke to in the street took him up on his offer, and everybody in, you know, all of his minions basically were all excited. You know, oh, that guy was really good to talk to. You did a good job with him, Dell, and he seemed kind of interested. And then he did appear on Dell's channel, and he came in to chat and all that kind of thing. And literally within the space of a few hours interacting with the people there, you know, he realised that they didn't have good arguments. You know, he was asking questions, and he was getting the kind of stock responses, and he knew better. You know, he knew some physics and geometry and stuff, and he just kind of went, no, it's not for me, sorry. And immediately, you know, it went, you know, the usual shit, just a shell, just another wanker. You know, so that was him. He was ostracised anyway because he didn't just join in with the you know, the cult belief.
Recap in a sentence or two what this specific point was, and then we'll get thoughts from the rest of the panelists.
It's about the general technique of soft sell, which is designed to gradually, you know, entice people into coming into the cult's fold and listening to their material. So it starts off nicer, and then they wait until you get into the fold before they start, you know, feeding you the more dangerous information, which fits in with the clip you showed earlier.
Excellent. Yeah. So, party people, option G. So, everybody, your thoughts on this point by LK? Who wants to go ahead? The floor is yours.
Anyone?
If no one's going to jump in,
you can go first, dude.
I was actually going to tackle if no one's going to jump on this one, the first one with the cult leader that it could be said that there aren't any cult leaders. Well, there are. And MC Toon called them Papa Flurfs. So there's each pocket of flat earthers attach themselves to a particular content creator, such as Dell. And then they become like a little clique of that, if you want to call them minions or whatever, of that particular group. And then they sort of fight other groups. It is, in a lot of respects, like a cult, that they'll do that. They'll split up in these groups and fight each other.
Yeah, I mean, the leader thing, it'll kind of come up anyway, but there is a bit of overlap, obviously, with each point. You can't help that. But in the kind of examples given there, obviously shown, you've got this clear line from Dell to Jason and all the rest of them, and the material that's been used. And of course, we all know, for example, Nathan Oakley says Black Swan, and for the next 2 years, all we hear is Black Swan. Nathan Oakley says something about sextants, and for the next 6 months so far or whatever, all we hear about is sextants, and that just goes back as far as you can imagine. And at any given point, there's been something like that where you can literally tell who you're dealing with in terms of who they listen to by the way they try to speak to you, because they don't really form their own opinions properly. They tend to just repeat material they hear.
Yep, indeed. Absolutely true.
It is actually true. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be a leader or a leader. I mean, they have their favorite flat earth person they'll go to, and they'll just parry off and parrot whatever they just said. So, I mean, you're spot on, in my opinion.
Well, that's why I was trying to see where the leadership would be for purposes of cult control. Otherwise, it's a cult of independent thinkers, which is a little problematic. Like, I mean, that independent thought would be inimical to cultish control unless you're talking about some level of dissemination in a cult-like controlled way via a leader or something like that. And so I was just trying to make that connection, if any, to that level of control of, thoughts or whatever in the cult.
It does exist to an extent, Lemon, but there's what's considered the traditional idea of a cult. You've got to remember that also stems from times when social media wasn't a thing. So the nature of it has changed, but the fundamental underpinning stays the same. And I'll come to a point later on where I'll mention it specifically, but it does still exist, but people tend to think more in the traditional sense, a bit like you're saying just now, about one key leader who's got ultimate control, but it's a little bit different now.
I want to hear Space Pop. I don't know for how long you've been paying attention. We're kind of breaking it down by segments. What are your thoughts so far about cults? You got some sentiments about the cult mentality thing and related to flat earth, huh?
Right. Yeah, I was listening a little bit in the beginning. I just tuned in again right now, thinking about what I want to say. In terms of what Lemonbird said, with the exception of Lemonbird, I don't think any other flat earthers are capable of independent thought. Now, with Lemonbird, for example, I consider him to be an intelligent individual. But all the other flat earthers, no, I don't consider them the same. Because just like each of you have mentioned, they're called leaders, and you can pretty much tell where they're getting all of their rhetoric from. So it's this incapability of formulating their own ideas that leads me to believe that they're not intelligent, because all they can do is either parrot what Nathan Oakley is saying, or what QE is saying, or what Bev is saying, but they aren't capable of actually formulating their own ideas.
Well, I mean, there are different pockets in the flat earth community here and there, and different, I guess you could say, cults of personality around different channels or people. I guess that element is slightly there, but I guess I don't see anybody cracking the whip saying, "Oh, you went after Nathan Oakley. You can't sit with us," or anything like that. Because I guess I'm thinking of the traditional, people's cult where you leave the the ashram or the commune or something like that, and it's like you can't sit with us or something like that. I need to see those traditional culty elements before I would say, cult. But I guess some elements of a personality ring, if not a cult, around certain people may emerge potentially. But I don't know.
I mean, there's a perfect example of exactly what you just said. We all know the server. If even there are flat earthers that do, there are like Baz was saying, there are a very slim margin of flat earthers that are independently looking for quote unquote truth. And if they go against said server, they're shunned from it. They're not allowed to go there. They're banned from places. I mean, there are prime examples of cult-like activity.
Right. And I feel like the difference between...
That's another thing that's going to get brought up as well.
I feel like the difference between me, Sean G, and Jose is that we actually cared about the truth. And that's something that's not exhibited by most flat earthers. They don't display that element of critical thinking where they can sort of, actively use the information that's been given to them to formulate what the truth actually is. It just seems as though all they're capable of doing is just using these malformed arguments that they got from either Nathan, QE, or Bev. I haven't seen anything different.
Before you, Lemonbird, a quick thought on people like me and Sean G and others that have been on Flat Earth and left. We are looking for the truth and being honest to ourselves. That is it gets confusing because some people want to call themselves truthers, but truther that word has been hijacked and misinterpreted. Just
very much
spoken in a very different way. Truther is not what it used to be now for the flat earthers and the skeptic community. People that look for the truth, me, Sean G, Babs, we find it. But the truthers, they don't want to find the truth. They want to just, I don't know, deny reality. They want to do something else, not real.
Yeah, and Al-Kay said something very interesting earlier. He said that a lot of people in this community, in particular the flat earthers, have a certain susceptibility to believing in things that aren't true just because they have learning difficulties. I don't think that may be true for every one of us. Just because me, Jose, and Sean G were able to figure out what the truth was, and we didn't end up being flat earthers because we had learning difficulties. I think it was more so to do with us not having specific knowledge, in particular with this topic. And when we learned that specific knowledge is when we realized that we were wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't the incapability of knowing. It was just not being part of my life at any point. So the information is becomes spotty in what you think you know.
When I found the information about science, Earth, the physics is something that I found myself very interested in the topic, but I didn't know about it because I didn't study about it. I didn't pay attention to it before. But now as an adult, when I found it, I said like, dude, this is really interesting. Let me dig into it. So I wanted to learn about science, physics, Earth. How did I learn it? Through the eyes of flat earthers and flat earth groups, which it was misunderstanding, misconceptions, and it was a very pick and choose little keys. Then if you really want to learn about the topic, you must go to the original source. You must go to the source, not learn it from a third party, which they don't agree with the actual topic. So you want to learn something the right way, go to the source,
Right. And I feel like go ahead. My bad.
I was just going to say, just to that point that you raised, kind of sort of said it already, but just to make sure I'm clear on it. Obviously, you're trying to group together a general behavioural format from lots of individuals. So there are some generalizations you can make, and they're not going to apply to every individual. You know what I mean? So it's obviously not intended to literally cover every single person, but more to look at the broad strokes. You know what I mean?
I understand. You're just being general. And I feel like with a lot of people, it's a human trait to sort of be susceptible to new ideas, especially when you're not that well educated on those particular ideas. And with me, I got into this really early. I think it was in like late 2014. And at the time, I was working a lot. So all I used to do was go to work, come back home, and either watch Jeranism, Glowbusters, or Nathan Opie didn't even exist at the time. So it was Mark Sargent and
the potatoes.
Just the potatoes, pretty much. And I wouldn't actually engage with Globers. I didn't even know that there was a community like this where we could, actually talk to each other. So when you're in that position, you're sort of being programmed as to how you should think as a flat earther. That's the cult. That's where the cult mentality begins, right there. Because when you listen to the potatoes, they don't particularly teach you how to think critically, even though they claim that they're critical thinkers. What they do is they tell you what to think and how to think.
I got a quick super chat comment I want to read before it goes too far. I'll put it up on screen because I don't know, I'm a little bit confused, but this is by Aaron Reese at $5. I understand that. Thank you, Aaron Reese, for the $5. Is the presenter going to assess flat Earth via the BITE model or BITE model? Okay, do you know what he means by that?
No, I know. I know the in general what he's talking about, but it's not part of this. No, I've got. So if you do any kind of research into cults in general, you'll find lots of pieces of information, and obviously there are certain people, as I say, social scientists and ex-cult members and so on, that do very specific research into that area. And if you look around, what you'll find is that there's some conflicting information about, what constitutes cult behavior and why people join cults and so on. But when you kind of filter it down, cross-reference and so on, there's like these commonalities that exist. So BITE kind of serves it's probably the most well-known example of that. But I've taken a kind of list that's, if you like, more generalised than BITE, if that makes sense. Just a few key components that can apply to any cult.
That's fair.
Okay,
and I hope that helped Aaron Reese on that point. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, would you say that especially because of current times, that the definitions, the list, so to speak, of what you would look at to see what constitutes as a cult would have changed over the times, especially like the last 2-3 years, where everything has become internet. Whereas you're not thinking when everyone thinks of a cult, you're thinking of like a communion, a place people are going in person. This is happening, and obviously now you would have to consider it being over the internet and not being in person type thing.
Well, there's definitely a massive. I kind of actually briefly mentioned this to Lemon, that on the leader side and so on. Social media really plays a massive part in how you look at that topic now. So, if you look at the introduction I did, obviously I mentioned all the the well-known, the famous ones that we all think about. But if you look around social media, there's going to be these channels, some kind of mysticism channel or something like that, and they'll have like a couple of million viewers, and they're sitting there telling people how to live their lives daily. And if you read the comments, those people quite literally worship the person running the channel. And there's a lot of that going on. So I think unless you go looking for it, you're maybe never going to know that. But social media is a huge platform for lots of erstwhile gurus, if you like, and it's definitely changed the landscape.
Speaking of gurus, I'm pretty sure you noticed, like in the early 2000s, around like 2012, there are a lot of these quote unquote social media influencers. And what I'm referring to in particular is, like, you remember those ads where you'd see like a bunch of dudes and they'd be like, oh, look at all these Lamborghinis in my garage. I'm a millionaire. All you got to do is
let me tell you how to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. All you got to do is just download my ebook, and you're going to be a millionaire just like me. So people started realizing that they can use this platform as a means to pretend to be things that they're not. That's why we see in Flat Earth, they're literally people that, are high school dropouts and literally don't have any kind of qualifications at all, but yet consider themselves to be smarter than people with PhDs. Like SE Montreal, for example, he hasn't been to high school. He hasn't opened a physics book in his entire life. He hasn't even studied math, yet he has the audacity to say that he's smarter than Einstein. So there's this level of narcissism that's just profoundly unbelievable.
Let's get Lemon.
Somebody mentioned about
Kawasaki, and then Lemon comments, and then we'll move to the other point.
Thank you very much. Yeah, earlier on, somebody mentioned about cognitive reasoning or something like that, and I'd just like to know what that is.
I don't know what he's referring to specifically. Did somebody say something specific?
You repeat the question, Kawasaki.
We'll do. Unfortunately, I've got to go. So I'll be back later.
All right, man. Yeah, all right. Lemonbird, your thoughts before we move on to the next point. There's more.
Well, as LK said, cults have modernized where, you don't have to be in a commune or whatever necessarily. You could just get the information from YouTube. And there may be a certain element of control, I guess, within the online community there. That is true. Just trying to see, what elements are or not culty in this this current conception nowadays, where I guess the online cult, if you will, has been modified. I guess the elements are there for people to, crowd around certain people because this information isn't easy to access. So I guess people are, desperately clinging to certain individuals potentially as their only source of information about this topic. But I guess I'd have to look into this further.
And that's the sinister aspect of Flat Earth. I think the real Flat Earthers are the people that you see in the chat rooms. But like the content creators are not really Flat Earthers. They're just using this as a niche market to they're using it as a cash cow, pretty much. Like an example of that is like with Nathan's GoFundMe's. Every 3 months, there's a GoFundMe that he's doing. He can literally say that his dog ate his computer, and now his dog is dead, and he's doing a GoFundMe so he can get a new dog and a new computer, and people are just going to shower him with money. So like, there's that aspect where if you're successful once at scamming people, you're going to keep doing it over and over again.
Yep, I agree.
D-Marble's another example of that, where he understands that as long as he continues a narrative, he has a following that will support him and get him his means of what he needs.
Does D-Marble do GoFundMes?
Yeah, I know he does. Yeah, for whatever experiments, equipment he needs and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but one of the worst is Nathan Oakley is one of the best examples, like for real,
Yeah, but that sounds like a legit. That what D-Marble is doing sounds like a legit GoFundMe. It's not like something.
No.
Someone put up.
Because I was really close with D-Marble back then, and when everything happened, when I left Flat Earth and all our conversations in between all that, he told me, he made it very clear that the Flat Earth to him is just a money making thing so he can be closer to his daughter. That's all it is to him. It's not I need to get the truth out thing to him. And I've had these conversations. I have these conversations. It's not just hearsay.
Okay, I had no idea about that. What I was referring to is like the people that are raising money to do like tests and stuff. There is some legitimacy to that, but like the ones, if we compare something like that to like someone that's raising money because they want to put a camera outside their house because they're pretending that people are stalking them and sort of trying to take advantage of their audience and milk them for their money. That's kind of different. It's not the same.
I've been offered, a lot of people said, well, do a GoFundMe to buy yourself a really good computer, to do the streams or get another camera or whatever, whatever thing for my shows. Dude, I'm using 2 old laptops. I had a good PC and it took a shit on me and I haven't fixed it. I'm working with what I have. I have found myself almost evicted a month ago. And I'm working with payment plans and all that shit. I don't have to ask for none of that, I just ask for anybody's help. So it's legit, But now,
Yeah,
if I
you're
was
doing
a
a
scammer,
show.
yeah, I'm doing something. So I appreciate the support, but it's not like I'm just gonna count on you. Like, oh, I'm gonna do a GoFundMe. I need $2,500 to pay all my what's behind, so I don't feel I don't find myself
But I mean,
homeless.
like with your show, you're running OBS off of a laptop. So you've proven that it can be done with little financing. You don't need this big ass studio like Nathan Oakley's got. That's completely just a scam.
I got 2 old laptops running, one next to another, and I'm in my Porsche in the outside. I mean, you guys hear the sirens on the background.
Exactly.
I don't need a studio to do it.
Yeah, do you need studios and speakers and all this shit to run a show? No. So anyone that believes in any of that is being scammed.
Well, in the way he does it, absolutely. But that's a situation because like when I was streaming, I made it clear I wasn't advertising, hey, I need a new, but it was like, the super chats that I got and the monetization stuff that I'd gotten. I made it clear, like, hey, everything that I do get does go to my equipment to improve streams and yada, yada, yada. But it's different from what you're saying. I get that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with listener support.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be, I think in this kind of format, maybe does lend itself to that kind of thing. You've got subscribers, you've got Patreons and PayPal and super chats and all that kind of stuff. So there's a certain amount of, funding involved just in the format, maybe. But you can tell that there's a difference when somebody literally is just taking the piss out of the subscribers and milking it for everything they can get. Especially things like
send me money so we can prove it's flat, but then it doesn't do anything.
And that doesn't just apply to flat earthers. If you go back originally, I would have said that, obviously, but I feel like we've had a couple of generations of this stuff, and I would say I'm what you would call second generation as far as debunkers go, because I didn't come into it, right at the beginning. But it used to be just 8-hour-long panel shows, and flat earthers and globe earthers would sit on panels talking to each other, and it wasn't always a shit show and so on. And then as far as debunking goes, people were just making videos for the sake of addressing arguments. It wasn't about having a big YouTube following.
It was much different than it is now.
The first and the second generation, It was
and I would say, okay, there's actually probably been, Babs, you would agree, probably about 4 generations of
I'll
this.
say about 5 at this point.
Yeah, right now we got like 5. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, we're deep.
Back in the day when they were
from the second generation. Myself, I consider myself like late 2016, early 2017. It's like the second generation there.
Like that back in the day when they started doing the open panels, flat earthers quickly realized that doesn't work for them, right? So now what they've decided to do is just create these flat earth only Discord groups. So what happens is you go into a Discord and there's like 20 flat earthers in there, and they just descend on you like vultures, pretty much. So it's no longer an open discussion. It's a cult, just like you said.
Back then, 8 would be shorting the amount of flat earth panels that were on. I mean, when just me and Jose were just left flat earth and we were live streaming, there were 15 of them, and half of us were piggybacking off each other constantly. There was always a place to go. Now there's nowhere. Now it just doesn't happen.
True.
Yeah. And just to come back to the point about the funding thing before we move on, is as I say, previous generations, if you like, we'll call it that, it was just about the argument, the topic itself. Debunking was just about saying this flat earther says this is why it's wrong. There was no monetary gain involved. But now, of course, you have this generation, if you like, where on both sides There are people who are far more interested in subscriber count and cash generation.
Absolutely. I think as it happened, more people got into it, and it gave more way for content to be there.
You got a little bit more over there to read, Alkay? We'll take another
yes,
section.
plenty,
Yeah, go ahead, man.
plenty.
Go ahead, man.
Right,
Let's take another section and we'll keep rolling.
Right, okay, this section is A New World Order. So once a curious member of the public wanders into the fold of the cult, they are bombarded with propaganda designed to make them believe in a false dichotomy between the current state of affairs and the promise of a new paradigm, while being made to feel in some way special or privileged to be able to see the world differently from everyone else. Here the process of isolation from and demonization of sources and ideas external to the group begins. Any mainstream media or standard way of thinking is vilified. Conspiracy theories are fed to the new members of the group concerning not just the validity of the information they once considered standard knowledge, but about the purity of motive behind anyone who promotes or agrees with that information. This leads inevitably to distrust of any reputable or authoritative source, especially anything considered to be associated with the government in any way, making the cult's propaganda and rhetoric the only place to turn to for more information on one's reality, and so a vicious cycle of self-perpetuating dogma begins to take hold. So for the Flat Earth side, excuse me, what I've got here is that any time spent looking around the comments and viewing much of the content by Flat Earth YouTubers will show that the implication of a false paradigm having been taught for centuries is a core component of modern Flat Earth propaganda, and many claims of ushering in a new paradigm have been made. This is all built upon the belief in a giant conspiracy, requiring those who feel inclined to believe there is truth to such claims to automatically reject centuries worth of scientific endeavour, the standard curriculum of education, to distrust any mainstream media sources, every single space agency, all footage or media which does not support the Flat Earth paradigm. Ultimately, this leads to the aforementioned cycle of relying solely on Flat Earth sources for information. Objectivity is naturally lost in such a situation, and the process of indoctrination is officially underway.
If I may jump in with a comment.
Yes.
The quality of this research it needs a broader audience than this. This is really well thought out, man. Very, very good stuff.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
You're basically saying what I wish I had time to write down.
It helps being able to write it down.
Yeah.
That was really good, dude. Really is.
So that's your turn, Jose. Any thoughts?
No, I'm just listening. That's excellent. I would just want to give the chance to. There's a bunch of people here who wants to have your opinion about it.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's got anything they want to chip in at the end of a section, we'll happy to sit and listen. And then if not, we'll just shuffle on.
Yeah, we'll move on. Yep, take another point here.
Okay, were you planning on?
You're
making
saying
this...
there's only two paradigms. It's either globe Earth or flat Earth. Isn't there a third alternative?
No, it's not necessarily about globe and flat Earth per se. Obviously, flat Earth is what we're talking about, but it's a more broader conspiracy concept, which is talking about how there's been some kind of concerted effort to pull the wool over your eyes. You've been lied to, your education is false, and so on. So it's a much broader attempt to undermine, government education and so on. It's not just about.
Okay, let's take it back to government education then. Isn't government education pulling the wool over somebody's eyes?
In what way? You have to be more specific. Yeah. And also, Kawasaki, see, in general, every time that I have heard you speak, you always ask questions, but not just asking a question like for the sake of asking a question. It's like you're wanting somebody else to supply the material that you're supposed to be supplying in the conversation.
That's
so we don't know what you mean by that. If you've got something to say about government education, then can you please just say that, and then we can maybe discuss that.
Aren't you trying to actually deflect from what I'm saying? Therefore, you're trying to devalue what I'm saying.
I'm trying to figure. You haven't made a statement. That's
Yeah,
the point.
you kind of made an open question, which you could have 1,000 answers. Maybe you want to be more specific. That's what we're trying to get to, Kawasaki.
Right. Okay. So, is the government position that we live on a globe correct or not?
If the government
that's the question.
That, I mean, like, I don't think the government specifically talks about the shape of the Earth. If you're talking about in general science education, then yes.
The government are the ones that are actually dictating what is taught in school, aren't they, or are they not?
Yeah. Obviously, they play a part in agreeing on the curriculum. But what I'm saying is that.
So, is the government actually dictating what is dictated in school?
Dictate. Yeah, I mean, if you want to use that word, that's fine, as long as you don't want to then use it to say everything is being dictated to you and you don't have a choice in what you think and believe. Because
do you have a choice what you learn in school? Yes or no?
Hold on, I was in the middle of saying something.
Do you have a choice?
I was in the middle of answering.
Yeah, Kawasaki, we need to with different flavor today. He was in the middle of a point, so let's not keep interrupting. Let him finish his point, and then you can have a go. It's okay.
I apologize.
Patience.
I just want to say before I finish that it is also interesting that in your questioning you're trying to push me into a dichotomy, yes or no, and it's not always that simple. So all I was going to try and finish off with is the point that the curriculum itself is a guideline for certain steps to be taken, certain subjects that you cover, and so on. And if you in this particular subject, if you look into the curriculum, you will see that part of it involves investigating a mix of information. It starts with teaching older information that is now outdated and working your way forward into current times. And part of the process of teaching science will involve doing tests and so on that you can do to investigate those alternatives. Like flat Earth is obviously the most obvious alternative, because originally that's probably what people believed before they started to believe it was a sphere. So it's covered that you can investigate and test to see if it stands up. So although it's part of the curriculum, which is, yes, technically dictated, the material itself isn't dictating to you. You must believe this.
So the authorities dictate what you can believe. Is that true or not?
Literally what I just said. So I don't see how I can converse with you if you don't listen and actually respond to what I said.
That isn't,
Jose asked me to back off, which I did, and I'll let you give your answer, but I'm still asking the question: is the authorities dictating to you what you must learn?
I have answered your question. I am not going to repeat.
Yeah, he answered his way. I mean, you might was looking for a different answer. I can answer you. No, I can learn whatever the fuck I want to learn. Pretty much.
Well, if you actually learn what the fuck you want to know, as you just stated, therefore you will not pass any exam.
It doesn't matter, but I still can learn whatever I want to learn. It's not, they cannot pressure me on learning what they want me to learn. I mean, if I want to be successful in life and have a different type of career, work with the government, yes, I must follow certain rules and regulations. But if I want to learn whatever I want to learn, I might not find a work in the government, but I can be successful in something else,
How does the education system dictate what we learn? Because I'm not sure that's an actual fact.
Okay, go into the education system. If you want to pass an exam, you've got to learn exactly what the education system tells you to pass that exam, haven't you? Or have you not?
Yeah, but that's only true for like primary school and high school, but not university. You can learn whatever you want after high school.
You're still governed by what the establishment wants you to learn and how they want you to learn it. Do you?
No, that's not true. No.
Really?
Not true in the UK either, Kawasaki. You know this. At university level or anywhere above like high school, you can start to specialize, and then project structures and learning are not some narrow-minded singular path. They spread, and you can have different specialities within a subject. Case in point, let's say media studies. Well, media studies can be about anything from the technicalities of visual display units all the way up to a graphics master's going on to university, but both are equally valid and both sit in the same track, and it's up to the individual to specialize.
But if you actually cite a hold on, wait a minute. If you cite a reference, then you must state who you cited it from, don't you?
If you cite a reference, I guess so. Yes, it's helpful.
Yes. So therefore, that is established, isn't it?
That's the definition of citing a reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, citing a reference means it's already been established, means you are actually in the process.
Are you suggesting that there's no such thing as correct information? I mean, I think it would be a difficult world to live in if there wasn't a body of knowledge that we've accumulated over several millennia that we can refer back to.
Several millennia? What is corrective or correct information then?
Can I just weigh in here 2 seconds? For 2.5, maybe 3 years, it was my entire job. Well, no, 50% of my responsibility to go around to universities to evaluate their effectiveness in teaching subjects within visual effects and games media. And the reason for that, and the service was there, the reason for it is they needed to correct themselves. That was the
That is a process. No, that is a process which actually establishes whether they are following a criteria. It's not establishing what they are teaching, is it?
Incorrect. You are incorrect. Trust me, this was my job. I went round and said, this is outdated. The curriculum needs to stop teaching this. It is not going to be helpful to students, and it's also in the wrong vein. You cannot communicate this concept in this way. It has changed. The industry has moved on. This is it now. And it's corrective. Absolutely 100%.
I would like to jump in right quick. 2 things. One, I think this is a bit of a rabbit trail. And 2, I don't want to get into this, but if you would like to suggest an alternative way of doing it, by all means. But just merely criticizing what the current paradigm is, that's all well and good. But let's if we can move on, maybe. I'm just.
I just quickly add to that.
We can't criticize the correct. We can't criticize the paradigm, because if you don't allow the paradigm to be corrected or criticized, then we will never ever move forward, will we?
How do you correct it? Because you seem to be under the impression, there was a problem with saying the phrase correct information. So how would you replace information you deem to be incorrect with other information?
By studying by learning, and by actually gathering information and learning that the paradigm that's being taught at the moment is incorrect.
Let's just assume you do that. It kind of brings me to another point I was going to make, and then I'll shut up. Right?
You always want to make a point, but you never answer a question, do you?
Let's assume
because
right,
I've asked you a couple of questions now, and you've never answered anything.
I have answered you. You literally ignored my answer and put words in my mouth when I tried to answer you earlier. But the point I was going to make is, let's assume for the sake of this conversation, you've done the study that you're talking about, whatever that may be. You've found some alternative that you can replace the current curriculum or whatever it might be with. What then becomes of that information? Does it not also follow the same format? Is it not now going to become the curriculum which you're going to say people must learn because it's the truth?
Over the years, how many times has the government changed the curriculum?
I don't have the statistics for that to hand, but I'm sure it's been changed a few times. But what I'm saying is if
every
you
single time,
if you changed it, it would still be the curriculum, wouldn't it? And so when someone went to school, what they'd be getting taught is what you've decided should be taught.
Shush, Bella.
It's a democracy.
I gotta. Oh, somebody's had mic in. I got a super chat I want to read over here in between. Mr. Victory Radio with a big $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Victory. And he say, yeah, I know it's not the correct way to say he said, but he say, to say that education system is a cult is more of the cult-like behavior that flat and level earthers show. Everyone else is wrong. We are right. So join us. Thank you, Mr. Victoria.
Can I ask Kawasaki Ninja a question? I'm just going to go ahead and ask it anyway. So you said that in the educational system, we don't really challenge the current paradigm. Now, in terms of the globe Earth, you belong to a group that claims that you have found contradictions with the current model. But then if I know this is not what we're discussing right now, but if I was to ask you, and I've noticed this happen a lot, what are these contradictions? It always seems like they're based off of misunderstandings on your part. Because so far, I haven't seen anyone show any contradictions or any problems with the current paradigm or the current model. So what in particular would you say you have discovered to be a contradiction with our current model of Earth?
You don't want to answer that, Kawasaki? That was for you.
Well, he's not going to answer it because there are no contradictions. So,
yeah. All right, we can keep moving on. Okay, go ahead, man.
Okay, we've kind of got to the section that Lemon was looking at earlier. So this bit's called Who Do You Love? All right, so of all possible components required in the makeup of the cult phenomenon, one we're all most familiar with, above all, is, I've kind of repeated myself there, is undoubtedly one of the most important, worship or reverence of a cult leader. We already mentioned some of the famous names from well-known cults at the beginning of the discussion. These are the people who somehow exude enough authority to convince others to follow them, to adhere to their teachings, to believe the dogma and the overly dramatic rhetoric that cultists begin to believe in, and to repeat it as though it is the only truth worth knowing. While some could be considered charismatic at a stretch, there is no hard and fast rule here, and probably the most important part of their act is to simply be able to sound convincing. How that is achieved can vary, from appealing to emotion and feigning empathy, to vocalising anger and hate in such a way as to amplify the fear and hatred that disaffected and vulnerable people feel, giving a false sense of camaraderie. Basically, they're feeding each other's egos and implying there's a greater purpose to the cult's existence. Whichever approach is used, the result is that people are made to feel as though this person speaks for them, or that their words were able to free them in some way, and consequently that person is held in some special regard and their motivations are never questioned. Alright, so on the flat earth side, let me just scroll this, sorry. We can find many such examples on YouTube. Because there are several people who fit the bill, it could be argued that there is no leader as such. However, what we can see is that the roots of the modern movement can be distilled down to one or two people in particular, with others having branched out from there. Mark Sargent and Eric Dubé are effectively the main people responsible for reinvigorating the modern belief in flat earth via social media, especially YouTube, although an honourable mention needs to go to failed comedian Matthew Boylan, aka Math Powerland. While he was prolific for some time and his influence can still be seen in certain pieces of flat earth propaganda, such as the photo or painting meme, his overall influence is diminished by comparison to the other two, who both continue their campaign of misinformation while he's disappeared into obscurity. Stemming from Dubé and Sargent's efforts, other channel owners have grown popular and now have their own particular groups of followers that certainly owe their existence to that initial influence, and you will often see this echoed in conversations and comments. So I was going to give some examples of that as well, but obviously, show marks, flat earth clues and all that kind of stuff, and I've personally encountered plenty of people who tell you, they'll always refer back in some way to either Mark Sargent or Eric Dubé, and if it's not a direct reference, you get other, what we're calling the leaders now, like Dell and so on, Oakley, who, if you go back far enough in their history, you will find them referencing people like Dubé and so on. So a good, probably best example I would have had to show for that is Dell and his cronies had a hangout a couple of years ago, and they had Dubé in, and everybody on that panel, Ali B, Dell, Gav, and various others, were all praising him and saying, "Oh, you opened my eyes. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be a zombie," and all this kind of stuff. So there's a trail that you can follow back to some of the initial material that appeared promoting Flat Earth, and people have been sitting at their computers and seen this information, and that's led them down the rabbit hole. And then eventually, some of those people have created their own channels, and that's kind of where it brings you up to speed with what's happening today.
Yeah, that is exactly true.
Very good. Yep.
Again, if anybody wants to discuss it, and let me know, and if not, I'll just soldier on.
I mean, yeah, you do have a good point on that. I mean, about the Eric Dubé thing. I mean, there are people who just still hail him as the greatest person of flat Earth, but yet he fled the country and he lives in another country for something very obvious. I mean, I don't know the whole criminal history thing, but I mean, you're absolutely correct. I mean, yeah, you're spot on about the Eric Dubé thing. That's all I was going to say.
He's
still see it. Sorry.
Quick thought, yeah, he's a very strange character because I found one of his earliest videos from, I think it was like 2016 or 2017. A lady, she found him just eating in a table outside over there in where's he at? In another part of the world, wherever he's
Thailand.
Yeah, wherever he's living, she was like, "Oh, you Eric Dubé, like nice meeting you." He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" His body language, his demeanor, the way he speaks. She talked to him for like 5 or 10 minutes, back and forward. But what she was doing, she was praising him on how awesome he is. He's the best. He woke her up, he's like the Messiah, like the savior. And he was like, his body language, like so proud, but at the same time, you could see the confusion in his face, like, damn, like I didn't expect somebody to come in and meet me in person and tell me how awesome I am. He was like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just did it because people need to wake up and people need to do this and that." But I don't know, very strange. I think I got the video downloaded. I'll probably upload it one day so you guys can see. I mean, just by we can analyze it together. Body language.
I can see how people can fall into that trap of sort of just being just following one content creator. That can easily happen. In fact, I mean, it happened to me a long time ago, and I sympathize with people like those that don't look at any contrasting information. They only get their info from one source. So that's why they're susceptible to believing in all of the bullshit. And I mean, majority of flat earthers are just dudes that sit at home smoking weed, binge watching YouTube videos all day. So they're obviously going to fall into that category. But the people that I don't sympathize with are the people that we engage with, like on a regular basis in this community. They've already been provided with the information, so they have no excuse to continually reject it.
Yeah, well said.
Said.
Yeah, you want to keep moving on?
I was going to say, just briefly before I move on, it's like, you still get all that today. You bump into, just like we kind of said, you can tell who a person, who their Papa Flairf is or whatever. material, it's always the parroting of material, you know. So even if a person doesn't literally turn around and say, read 200 proofs, they'll use things like, you know, if a helicopter is above a spinning ball, blah, blah, and you're like, oh, here we go, Jubei clone, you know? And it just happens every day. Right, anyway, we'll crack on. Okay, we're on to part 5, Know Thy Enemy. Short explanation on this one. For the first part, in concert with the promise of a paradigm shift, and especially when under the influence of a leader or authoritative voice in the cult, encouraging the spread of fear and mistrust, comes the stage of providing an external enemy upon whom to pin all crimes. Such accusations tend to be hyperbolic in nature, designed to utterly remove any and all outside influences on the cult and to undermine any voice of opposition or knowledge which illustrates the falsehood of the cult's ideology. So, for Flat Earth, it could be easily seen as the most obvious example of modern Flat Earth YouTube movement being a cult. The greatest majority of almost all comments by Flat Earthers concern accusations of government propaganda, of Jesuit conspiracy, of the education system itself being no more than an indoctrination program, shout out Kawasaki, of any modern scientific theory, especially the heliocentric model of the solar system, being bogus and all a part of the grand deception by Masons and so on. Anyone who disagrees with a Flat Earther, and especially if that involves promoting the modern consensus, is deemed a government agent, a shill, or a sheep who has been brainwashed by said government propaganda. In turn, this eventually results in members growing apart from anyone who continues to choose the standard paradigm or mainstream thinking above the theories and beliefs of the cult and its members. This quickly becomes problematic as new cult members begin to distance themselves from friends and family who will not accept their new way of thinking. And it doesn't stop there. It is common to see accusations of paedophilia, Satanism, and many other gross insults stemming from the Flat Earth proponents' paranoia and obsession with feeling victimised by society at large. Those who would spend all day, every day, watching and commenting on Flat Earth content on a platform run by one of the largest mainstream media companies in the world, paid for by advertising and marketing, will see no irony in doing so and using that platform to decry any and all types of modern media.
Guys, I encourage you over here in the Discord. If you're not watching the YouTube, I put a poll up on the YouTube chat box. Please vote. Just click it. Are you enjoying the show? That's the question. Yes, no, I prefer a shit show, or it should be like this every day. So please vote. Majority 17 votes. People saying they are enjoying the show today. Yes, indeed. And if you are watching this, you made it this far, everybody, hit the like, the thumbs up. Make sure that the thumbs up is highlighted darker than the other one. So if locate the thumbs up, all right, you already see the thumbs up and the dislike, and hit it if you haven't done it in 3, 2, 1. Hit the thumbs up now. There you go. Now that's what we're talking. Now, locate the PayPal link in top of the YouTube chat box. If you have deleted that comment, find the link of the PayPal in the description box, or the super chat is easy to find with the $sign underneath, and give me money. Boom! Plus on this point, guys. Go ahead.
In case everybody's having any issue with addressing it, so it's just generally about that, seeing everything and everyone as an enemy, and and obviously for people that are further down the rabbit hole, it becomes a bigger problem socially and so on. And as Kawasaki is one of the people that just demonstrated, any kind of information that's deemed to be from the government or education and so on is just automatically seen as some kind of bad thing. If you believe it or promote it in any way, then you're an agent, you're a shill, and all that kind of stuff. So everybody and everything is an enemy, including mainstream media, but the information is being pumped out via that same avenue. Google, one of the biggest media companies in the world.
I can respect people that that have that opinion, that they're anti-government or anti-education, as long as they're able to make a case for their argument. As long as they're able to point out flaws that they found in the current model or in the educational system. And that's something that just doesn't happen in Flat Earth. All you get is we don't believe this just because we don't feel like believing it. We're not giving you any specific reasons why.
Yeah, I just don't like the way it sounds. I just don't want to be part of the normal people. I want to be
Yeah, and
special.
that's
So I just
lazy.
don't gonna believe it. Yeah.
That's lazy because literally anybody can do that. Anybody can just reject everything and be a critic, but it's a lot harder to create an argument.
Right, anybody can say it, and as far as what you choose to believe in, or if you want to put it that way, when it comes from that kind of source, it should be contextual. Trying to use this whitewash approach where everything and anything in education or everything and anything government is somehow wrong and evil, it doesn't address the problem. So if, as you say, if there was an actual issue you could address and say we can better this is wrong or whatever, that's fine. And that does exist obviously in politics and in governance and so on. I mean, I don't think there's anybody really would turn around and say they're big fans of the government in a general way, but when it comes to a specific scientific subject like this, saying yes it's true or yes I agree with that shouldn't be oh well, that just means you're a sheep and you believe everything the government says. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right, and on the flip side, they're so critical of the current educational system. They call it brainwashing, yet they go into Nathan's or Bev's and get brainwashed.
Exactly.
So that's kind of contradicting themselves right there.
Right.
We haven't heard a lot from Lemonbird, and maybe he's just listening, and I appreciate that. But maybe Lemonbird is waiting kind of to the end, because he got probably you got more of a general points on the topic, Lemonbird.
Glancing at the YouTube chat, he seems to be arguing
Anyway.
about perspective.
All right, hey, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I appreciate that too. And anyway, we'll wrap it up soon. Yeah.
I do recommend that people go to that. You can get statistics on this. I've just checked. I won't read them out, but I think people should go to have a look at patents filed and pending for both universities in the United Kingdom and the US, and you see a whole host of technology patents that come out of new research and new technology. That's someone taking a subject quite often and saying, there's a better way. I'm not going to take this as gospel, shout out to religiotards, but I'm going to come up with something new. And unfortunately, most of the time, I say unfortunately, it's done under under a university guidelines, which means that they hold the non-commercial patent. But it's fascinating to read them, and that just shows you how education and the curriculum allow that kind of freedom and do adapt.
Blasphemy.
How dare you?
All right.
Carry on,
anybody else
yeah.
want to chip in or?
Yeah, man.
Okay, where are we? So, all right, we're in part 6.
Just to say before you continue, I mean, people is enjoying the show. We got just same amount of people watching as if it was a shit show or just a nonsense thing. So we got a decent audience, and people is actually giving good feedback that they are indeed enjoying the show. So this is good. Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Good. It's good to have something different as well, Right, so this is when the walls close in. When it comes to maintaining a large group of people in a certain frame of mind, there are few more effective tools than the inherent pressure of being surrounded by those who would vilify and condemn anyone who chooses to question the dogma and dare to reject the group's teachings and goals. Arguably, this can be seen in many levels of society, but when it comes to cults, we see a far more sinister and direct application of peer pressure in action. Cult programming tends to produce radical behaviour in those who see rejection of the group as a serious betrayal, giving rise to accusations of criminal activity, threats of violence, including death, and in some cases, seeing those threats carried out. Seeing the way that a once accepted devotee becomes a pariah who is mocked, abused, and threatened to such an extent inevitably places more pressure on those still in the cult who may be questioning their own place there. So, Flat Earth. Many examples can be found amongst Flat Earth proponents, ranging from the basic rejection of facts to death threats against former Flat Earth believers. For this particular section, I've actually split it into two specific examples, but I'm sure once I'm done with this, you can talk about, other stuff amongst yourselves. But so, first example, in a famous study conducted by Solomon Asch in 1951, 75% of test subjects would agree with false information when guided by the pressure of being surrounded by others who are stating false information to be true. The test included simple visual tasks such as identifying the longest line in a series of lines. Despite the lack of ambiguity in the images, participants would claim they were seeing different results based on the controlled responses of the other subjects around them. In a parallel to this case, high-altitude video footage taken by a flat earther, Dwayne Kellum, clearly containing a curved horizon and not caused by a distortion in the camera lens, is reported by the video author and all of their followers as being a straight line and therefore proof of flat Earth. The geometry is unmistakable, yet the result is claimed to be different from that which is clearly visible. In this case, we can assume there is a lot of confirmation bias at play, but no flat earther is going to be the one to tell another flat earther that they've shown footage of Earth's curvature. Example 2, while rare, some flat earthers have left the fold. Shout out Jose. Having actually taken the time to objectively weigh up the evidence. Here is where we get to see the typical cult reaction from those who are programmed to look upon non-cultists as enemies. Verbal attacks in the form of comments can be found littered throughout the video content of former flat earthers who choose to stay around the YouTube scene. These range from accusations of selling out, of being controlled opposition, shills and agents, and a flip-flopper, right through to threats of physical harm. Once accepted members of the Flat Earth community are now seen as fake and not to be trusted. They were never real Flat Earthers or are confused in some way and swayed by the Ball Earth propaganda. Insults will come in various forms, often externalizing the underlying prejudice which rests at the heart of Flat Earth, including accusations of being a transsexual, a Mason, a government agent, a paedophile, and many other crass claims. The most famous example of the way the Flat Earth community treats its former members comes from the YouTube user known as Tiger Dan. Dan was a respected Flat Earther responsible for making many videos questioning the shape of the Earth, concentrating on making maps. Eventually, Dan came to the conclusion that the Flat Earth was impossible and promptly announced this on his channel. Soon after, he began to receive an onslaught of vile accusations and had his life threatened multiple times, leading to him discarding his channel. And then I'm going to kind of ignore the rest of what I actually wrote, but I was kind of going to give a few more examples. At the time I was writing this, Seek Truth, Speak Truth had just done, his thing, and his channel was bombarded with deltards, and the usual. They were all insulting him and telling him he was never a real flat earther and making death threats and all this kind of stuff. And that's where I'm going to leave it, because I know that some of you guys in the panel have got personal experience with it and can talk about it.
Indeed. Just like if you lived that, yourself. Every single insult I received when I left the flat Earth, it didn't go. Actually, it went as far as a death threat. There was just one person. I don't know if you guys remember Dabbing Good. He had a debate with Sean Hawkins in this channel earlier when I started my previous channel.
I remember the name.
Devin Good, yeah, he went ballistic when I muted him for a reason, and he just sent me a bunch of emails threatening me and telling, "I live in Florida. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna, end your life and shit like that." Because I muted him in a discussion because he was listening. I mean, something as silly as that. Why? Because I was not a flat earther anymore. But every single insult, every single name on the book, I was called, and I still get that. As for today, it's been 3 years probably, and I still get called that I was never a flat earther, that I was a plant, and
I get that
I was
too.
paid for,
People even made videos about me. It's almost like they think that you can't use your own intelligence to arrive to this conclusion. You sort of have to be coaxed or persuaded in some sort of way, or be a government agent to believe that Earth is a sphere. Like you can't, there's no way you can possibly arrive at this using your own intelligence or using evidence that's been provided to you, or even evidence that you obtained on your own.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to announce that I'm the government agent that paid Space Pope to change sides. Thank you very much.
You're not supposed to tell people that.
Oh, sorry, Space Pope.
I mean, I remember a guy, he was called Belief is a Thief. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him.
The name rings a bell. Yeah.
Right. So he appeared on the scene. He kind of get, brought into it and kind of started to question a few things, but he was quite a critical kind of guy, and he did a lot of practical tests, and he had quite a big kind of area as a backyard, and he had a lot of materials, so he used to do sort of physical models and set his camera at different angles, do curves versus straight, that kind of thing. He did a lot of stuff, and he did observations over water and so on. And while he was, putting out these videos and doing the tests, and he was still at the point where he was kind of questioning it, several people in Flat Earth were kind of all over him like a rash, including Dell again. And, you can see, I don't know if the videos, all of his videos still exist, but you can see, the drastic change when he after so much investigation, he went, no, it's nonsense. I can rationalize this to myself, how the globe works, and explains these things I'm observing in real life and on my models versus what Flat Earth is telling me, And then he got into a specific issue, which was, I think it was Phuket Ward was the main person pushing it at the time, this idea that center of the frame is eye level when you're looking at a picture. And, it was an argument at the time, but he was like, that's obviously bollocks. And he made videos saying, no, this isn't true. And that started a wave of criticism just because he was questioning something that another flat earther was saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's idiotic. You can put anything in the center of frame. I can point a camera to my ceiling right now, and it's going to be in the center of frame. That's not eye level.
It's a ridiculous idea, but plenty of people, were promoting it. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure we all know if anybody who's left far. I mean, Ranty, he's had all the abuse as well, and I mean, you just listen to Mabbit's crazy outburst, as an
I
example.
bet Chunji, you were, I mean, kind of from the Bro Sanchez group, right? That side, a little bit
Dread.
more active.
Yep.
Dread, yeah,
Dread. But yeah.
And you got what you got some hate your way too, right?
Oh, yeah. That was one of the big things. I remember you had like a little bit of issue of it, where it was like, well, what happens when I leave Flat Earth, or is everyone going to be just against me? And so at first it wasn't so bad, but as time went on, now like Babs and you were saying that the biggest thing is you were never a Flat Earther and etc. But yeah, you get it instantly, like people you think you talk to every day suddenly acted like they didn't even know you, and it's just a ridiculous way of thinking. Yeah. When in reality, that's exactly how you got into Flat Earth.
Yeah, literally the people that were praising Ranny for all his videos and research were the same people sending him death threats.
Yeah, that was the weird. That was one of the weirdest things to me, because like Jose, Babs, you guys know, like a lot of my live streams and stuff I was talking about was like, weather modification and stuff like that. And it went from, I'm not a flat earther anymore. And then they were like, all your information is full of crap. And I'm like, wait, what? But you were agreeing with it. You were showing the same type of stuff, saying how, yeah, this stuff is happening. Now, everything I said was a lie, because I don't think the shape of the earth is this way. It's just a weird way of thinking.
I remember a few people from the ones that were quote unquote my friends when I was a flat earther, or people that at least I engaged and interacted with either via chat box or in voice, in calls and hangouts and stuff. Just a handful of people that always kept some certain respect and never disrespected me as for personal attacks and insults. And Babs was one of them. And actually, Chris Berry was also one of them. Chris Berry was a little more of a, like, you bullshit, like, you don't know what he's talking about. Babs was a little more mellow, like, you know what, you don't understand, Jose. This is how it works. I remember in the Oakley show, I think it was you. You said, like, let's bring the lighthouse, and you broke it down. This is what's going on, and you explained it to me. I said, like, I disagree, but whatever, So there were a handful of people that, for today, they kept certain respect, even if I switch sides, which is the way it should be,
Yeah, and things changed. At the time, I didn't, I don't even think I had spoken to Jose, but the more and more I started talking to him and get to know him and just see that he's just a normal dude, I didn't think that of him anymore.
Yeah. There's definitely a big group of people that you can still interact with. It's kind of odd seeing them get militant, I guess you would call it now. But there's still people that, I can still have a conversation with, and it's not going to get all outrageous. Babs, you were one of them for a long time when I left Flat Earth. That I was still willing to talk to you because I knew it wouldn't come some personal, you were never type attack.
Yeah, because I was trying to gather as much information as I could. I wasn't just limiting myself to Flat Earth. I really wanted to know what the truth was. So I made sure I went pretty much everywhere. I was on Oakley's. I'm still in Gem Pandas, and I was on here too. Just discussing all these different ideas, and this is what led me to where I am right now. And I feel like if a lot more flurfs started doing this, it would probably arrive at the same place where I'm at right now. But they're not willing to do this because they're either getting something out of this, either narcissistic gain or financial gain, and they don't want to lose any of that. It's become part of their identity.
I got a super chat by John Rapp, $2 Australian, and he's just a testing. Seems okay. Thank you very much, John Rapp. Appreciate that. A super chat. It works, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a real big sign of what we keep trying to explain as like real truth seeking. You start noticing the people that we were talking about, people that always are in one group. It's the people that start going to different groups, both sides, asking questions, not outright going you're wrong. Those are usually the people you start finding are starting to understand more and starting to see where things that are said aren't actually true on one side or another.
Yeah, and even in these flurf groups, they never discuss Flat Earth. If you notice, the only thing they talk about is just their misunderstandings of the globe. On Bev's channel, he spent, like 2 months talking about blue marble, but he's never going to show you anything that he's actually done. He isn't going to show you any measurements or any tests that he did. In fact, recently I went on there and had a lengthy discussion with him and Domestic Primate, and I wanted to actually seriously take a look at what they did, right? Because they're always talking about this test that they did, but I realized that they're unwilling to show me that data. Like I was, what happened was Domestic Primate pointed me to Geo's channel, and he was like, "Go look through those videos, and you're gonna find the live stream where we actually did the test." I went to Geo's, and there's like over 100 videos on there. So he pretty much just told me, go find the needle in the haystack. We're not willing to show you anything because we don't want to be criticized.
Yeah, so I actually got into him about the same topic of, are you recording this and uploading it? So the live streams that they do these tests, they're not live streams. They're just live broadcasting. Like when you share your video on Discord.
Oh, yeah, they never recorded, yeah.
Yeah, they're not actually even uploading anything they did. They're just giving you the quote-unquote results, which are very vague, and they don't give you any real data of it or how they did it.
I have to step away for like 5 minutes, but I'll be right back. You guys got the floor. It's all good.
Right, man. And if you think about the percentage of that compared to the rest of what they deal with, that video or the test they did accounts for about maybe 10% of their material. And 90% of the material is just them talking about Blue Marble or Bob the Science Guy.
Yeah, and to touch on what you were saying before, and I think, well, Jose just stepped away, but Babs, I know you would agree with me on this. And one thing that was a red flag for me was that I always assumed, and I did it, I got a lot of slack for doing it, but when you, as a flat earther, to question another flat earther is almost unheard of. Like, you don't, like, I would assume that in flat earth groups, you would have these debates and these arguments going back and forth about, you know, their idea of what's going on, because no one group is right, you know, all correct in thinking.
Well, it also depends on who you're talking to. You can question them, but it depends largely on who you're talking to. But if you're talking to like one of the YouTube creators, flat Earth dudes, nah, it's blasphemy to question those guys. You're not allowed to question those guys.
Well, that's why Nathan Oakley's turned into what it was, because it became this thing where he just wants to shout what he thinks is correct, and anyone else's opinion is crap and doesn't matter. His whole time.
That's a business model that all flat Earth platforms are using now, where it's majority flat earthers on their panels, and like when you go in there as someone with an opposing view, they just descend on you like vultures. And it's intentionally made that way so that you can't make an argument. You're either going to get muted, insulted, or just kicked.
So I have a question. Who finds it ironic that we're talking about cult behavior and someone comes in and says, the government controls what you learn, don't they? And I think that person's probably never taught in a school before. In fact, there's serious blowback when the government tries to control education, and they do try. If anybody's heard of the story of the flying spaghetti monster.
Oh God, I remember that.
That's a great example.
I mean,
do you guys know that story? That was a teacher.
Kawasaki was kind enough to demonstrate for us what we were talking about. You know.
That is actually true. I was going to mention Bob Nodal. When you, if you ever go in to one of the live stream, the Globebusters live stream, and question them, now he basically, even if I went in and said hello, and I got banned because he just goes in and he looks at your channel, and if you don't have flat Earth content, you're banned. That's how bad it is now.
Yeah, Bob Nodal is a pathological liar. He lied about being a commercial pilot, amongst other things, and he also kicked someone out of his group that was going to do a legit gyroscope test.
Yeah, they made a gyroscope. Yep, that's right. They made a physical. They physically made a gyro, and they found, oh, wait a minute, it's showing a drift.
Stefan P. Was it Stefan P? Is that right?
That's it.
Yeah, so he doesn't really fall under the
test.
I think he falls under the category of scammers and grifters.
Absolutely.
I do agree with you on that one, actually. Yeah, he is a scammer. I mean, he knows, yeah.
Well, I don't think I think he's stupid enough to still continue believing that Earth is flat, but he's definitely using it now for beneficial reasons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that one. Yeah, I mean, I think he is that stupid, but he also knows I can make money off of this. So yeah, he's
right. Like picture this: if he wasn't doing this, would he really have like 600 people watching him?
Probably not.
Yeah, so that's the attention that he gets from doing that is what keeps him going, not just the monetary gain.
That's a telltale sign of that is one of the big factors for me was that documentary that came out when stuff starts falling apart, their narrative doesn't change. That's the biggest red flag.
If you question someone and you say thanks, Bob, or something, the reply you'll get is, well, Bob explained it. He explained what.
Right.
Oh, something went wrong there.
Oh, you okay, dude?
Looks like he's dropped.
Flat Earth Fix Squad got him.
Yeah, Bob's found him.
Oh no.
I mean, Bob's. I got blocked from Globebusters, and I wasn't even talking to Bob. And I made some fairly innocuous comment to one of the other flat earthers in his live chat, and I was blocked almost immediately. And then during the European Globely tour, I briefly visited Jason's live stream, and I was making comments to other people in the chat. I wasn't talking to Bob himself, and Bob spotted me and went, "Why is Al-K allowed in here? He's a Glober. You should ban him." And within seconds, one of the mods banned me.
Now, why do you guys watch Bob or any of these guys?
Yeah,
like I had an excuse. Exactly. Yeah, I had an excuse to watch them back in the day because I actually believed that what they were saying was true. But I don't watch them anymore. It's been a really long time since I've been there. So I just wonder what appeals to you guys to want to continue watching that nonsense. What do you get out of that?
Especially, and there's different aspects of it. Like if you went to Geo's, that wouldn't fall under the category of what we're talking about. The category falls under Nathan Oakley's, little bunch of places where Globers aren't welcome. Your arguments are never reviewed. It's literally like a very one-sided situation, but you still go there. That is very confusing to me. I went to Nathan Oakley's once, maybe a month after I left Flat Earth. That was the last time I've ever watched it or been there or given an F about what he says. It's odd to me when you go to these chaotic places like 24/7 and think something is going to happen.
Well, the funny thing is that I've been on Nathan's before, and he wasn't actually disrespectful to me, surprisingly. The only person that was a dick to me was Quantum Eraser. But Nathan, I don't know why, for some strange reason, was not disrespectful towards me.
Well, at first it was fine. For me, it was Paige. And then once Paige started, everyone started. Nathan started, and I just left. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, Paige is a dumbass.
Well, with Nathan, were you going at the time? Were you going in there as a globe earther or as somebody questioning things?
As an ex-flat
I
earther.
was someone questioning the flat Earth.
Okay.
So I would. This was around the time when I first joined Gem Pandas. So I think it was like 3 years ago or something. I would hear arguments that you guys would make, then I'd take them over to Nathan's and see what his rebuttal would be. And surprisingly, he allowed me to do that. I don't know why. I really don't know why.
I'm back. I got a few comments to read. Thank you very much, guys, for holding the floor. I wasn't listening, but I was kind of eardropping, listening from the background. We got a $2 PayPal hit over here by Marble Merman. Thank you very much, man, for the $2 on PayPal. Did Lemon Bird run away? Yeah.
No, let me see.
Where's Lemon Bird? Did he run away?
I don't know.
Lemon is here, but he's quiet because he's in the chat box. He's very, very in the chat box. I appreciate it, man. But also we have over here on PayPal, we have a big one, a huge PayPal hit by Earth is Live. $40. People, are you sure, man? Yeah, man. No problem. No, thank you very much, man, for your support. You actually did hook me up. You helped me a lot. I really, really want to thank you for your support. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, shout out to B-Ball. And Lemon Bird is one of the only, not really the only, but he's among one of the flurfs that I actually respect because he's not scared to come on here or to go into Gem Pandas and, debate his views.
Yeah, actually, and have something to say. It may not always make sense or be how it actually is, but he comes with something rather than the spewing of a script that a group has learned. So that's respect to that limit.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by he's an independent thinker. Like you can tell that he's actually using his brain. He's not just repeating what Nathan told him to say.
And he's a fair moderator as well.
I agree. But
Jose, I posted a video for you personally for the Daily Forum.
Actually, okay. I actually had a question.
I'm sorry.
I missed all of that.
he shared a video of him blowing shit up.
Okay.
I will agree that Lemon is one of the more reasonable flat earthers.
That when that's said, that's not reasonable, and everything he says is correct, or has great points on being correct. It's how he carries himself, how he enters a conversation, how he leaves a conversation. It's the person he is. But okay, I wanted to ask you because especially on the topic, and it was kind of towards the flat Earth. But wouldn't you also agree that on the globe side we have this situation where it's almost cult like, where you have these pockets of groups of people that intentionally go to Nathan's, go to these groups and antagonize an argument, or just be there to call people names and get personal with them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a minute ago you were questioning, well, why would you go to these places, and it was like, I don't, especially now, because I just don't really bother at all. But even when I was making content, I abandoned Nathan's when he started all his bullshit, when he changed his format. And I used to ask, why are you going there every day, to some of the people that were there? But there is a bit of a mix of the people that do it. Some people just get this kind of general entertainment from going to places like that, and I personally don't understand that, but that's them. And then, as you say, there's like the kind of nastier ones, the ones that are literally just there to be insulting all the time. So I guess some people just get their jollies, going around the internet and insulting people all the time. I never, it's not something I would do. I had a general sort of, no, I'm not saying I never insulted anybody. I mean, I wouldn't, give view time to flat earth content. I would watch bits here, bits there. I would watch stuff because I'm going to maybe make a video about it, or that kind of thing. But I would never, spend time every day on any flat earth channel like that. I genuinely don't understand why anybody does it.
I just want to hold on, really quick, Babs. Let me read this. As a preliminary results of the poll that I put up earlier, I'm gonna leave it up, but it's gonna be pretty much. This is gonna be pretty much it. The majority of the people is enjoying the show. 51 votes, 75% say yes. People is actually enjoying the show. Now, there's another option that it depends how you take it, which is the second most voted with only 12%. It should be like this every day, like more of a presentation type and questions and answers, more of a formatted like this, which people will enjoy it like this every day. But I don't think people will enjoy it like this every day, because my show is kind of based more of a shit show and shouting and discussing and doing a different format, But as for every once in a while, once a week or so, yeah, I'm happy to do a show like this, more of a presentation type, somebody with a specific topic, if you got something planned, and then we'll break it down maybe by segments, and we'll still do it dynamic and open panel like this. It's been great, man.
It has been good. So if you did it, say every Tuesday is going to be a debate or other, a research topic, that would be great.
I mean, I think if you got something that people are interested in listening to, it's going to work. But I agree, it shouldn't be something you do every day, also, because I think that would just get dry. You need to mix up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
There does seem to be a lack of deeper research. This is why this is quite refreshing. There is a lack of deeper research. People would just want the dumpster fires and the arguing and the yelling, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of really deep research into this, and there really needs to be.
Well, that would be the hard part about doing it every day. When you do, if you would do a serious topic every day, there's only so much research anybody can do with a heads up and et cetera. So it pays off. It's very difficult to keep things, to have a topic based show every day.
I agree.
Agreed.
You'd struggle. You want me to carry on and?
Oh, you got more, Lex? Go ahead, man. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, we're kind of near the end, so.
Good.
All right, so part 7, which I titled "You Looking at Me?" Kind of covers some of the stuff you've just been talking about anyway. So, famous groups whom we're all familiar with, were ultimately led by someone with extreme narcissistic tendencies, hateful, guilty of radicalization of others in service to themselves, ultimately offering nothing to their followers but simply feeding their own egos with the adulation they received and the control they exerted upon their followers, giving themselves a greater sense of power. No cult leader exhibits any sense of loyalty to their followers as they continue to demand it for themselves. It is a one-way relationship. The cultists are easily discarded by their leader, with minor indications of disloyalty or independence of thought being punished with ostracism at best, while the faithful are guided to the kind of threatening behaviour previously discussed. So obviously that last wee bit is referencing what we're talking about, when the death threats come and so on. So Flat Earth, again, looking at those who take this position in the online arena responsible for promoting Flat Earth, we can see that this common trend continues to be a part of the underlying psychological makeup of the modern movement. This is unsurprising, given the platform itself naturally requires anyone looking to preach to others must exhibit some level of narcissism to begin with. But in Flat Earth, when we take a moment to review how these people conduct themselves, it's easy to see the parallels between this new wave of cult leaders and their spiritual predecessors, as they go above and beyond the mere act of being confident enough to show their face and speak with assumed authority. And then I've got a list of people who exemplify kind of narcissistic behaviour. It's Dell, Oakley, Bob Novell, Sargent, etc., etc. You can talk about that amongst yourselves if you like.
So the one thing you mentioned about how the cult leader will dispel the cultists, I mean, that's exactly what we see with people that leave the flat earth. As soon as they leave the flat earth, now people that were friends as flat earthers, and then one of them is not a flat earther anymore, they're ostracized, they're talked about, they're ridiculed. That's exactly what we see.
And sometimes you'll see it happen directly as an order. I don't have the screenshots handy, but I've seen it happen, where somebody will literally say, "Oh, don't talk to that person." You know what I mean? Why are you talking to them? They're a traitor. They fucked off from flat. I've seen it happen directly.
Yeah.
Let the shunning begin.
Right. It's kind of like a tribalism. Oh, he's no longer part of the tribe. He needs to be exiled and thrown rocks and, monkey poop at him or something like that. I mean, it is.
A big thank you. Side note, big thank you to C4. He just hit me up with a $10 PayPal. Thank you very much, C4. And he say, "Here's my vote. Yes, he is enjoying the show as always, but it's fake." Thank you very much, C4. You got a great eye to spot fake stuff and real stuff. Thank you, C4. Appreciate that.
Oh, I have to get out and let the cats out there.
I want to say one word of advice, and that is, "Hi, Sean G. How are you?"
So I mean, I think the conversation you guys have had, you've kind of covered this quite well. To be fair, the narcissism and the isolation, and the way they, despite what some flat earthers try to say, there is this element of control from the so-called leaders. Even if it is just what you might call indirect, in the form of just programming them to think a certain way. So they're not necessarily sitting there commanding someone, go attack this person, go do that. But just because they've been listening and they've been programmed by the repetition every day to be kind of hateful and spiteful towards certain people in society and so on, that whenever somebody's deemed to be not part of that group and not thinking that way anymore, instant enemy, and they start acting that way towards them.
And still, I was directly told, instructed to actually go and attack the Globe side, to actually go and insult the Globe people. I was directly told to do so. Yeah, when I wasn't doing it, I wasn't doing it because it's not me. It's not who I ever was. But I was told, like, yeah, I see, I hear you. hanging out with the globes. I hear you hanging out in this server and talking to the globe people. You cannot be acting like you act with us. You gotta be hard. You gotta be heartless. You gotta insult them. You gotta tell them, this, and you gotta just make them feel bad. Why? Why? Very strange.
Jose,
What?
I'm going to bring this up, and hopefully you're okay with this. I think it's very ironic that they do that when 95 or more percent of them are Christian and they're taught to act like Christ. Would Christ do that to people from their perspective?
Remember the moneylenders. Remember the moneylenders and the temple.
Well, I'm saying from the flat earthers' perspective, would they do that?
Well,
Yeah,
I
they're
don't
bring
think
up
that
an
he
argument.
would, no. I don't think that he would, no. And that's why the main element in cults is freedom versus control, if you're talking about controlling culty behavior. And that's why I think, the flat earth is the truth. Although some of the leaders may participate in, I don't know, some sort of cult of personality, the flat earth itself is true,
All right, so
they'll use passages like the fact that Jesus prepared the seven-tailed whip with metal bits in to go and whip the moneylenders out of the temple, because that's how they see the shills. And the other thing is they'll use the term, I have come to set brother against sister, son against father, that particular line. I've not come to make plows, but to make swords, blah, blah, blah. So there's plenty of, good biblical reference in the New Testament that they can choose from.
Yeah, let's try not to focus too much in the Christian and biblical side and these analogies, because we've been focused 100% of the time in this cult.
Yeah,
I was trying to be
there, Lael. I'd like to point out something, that predominantly religious societies have a higher crime rate and are more immoral in generalized general purpose studies. You can go and look this up. And another weird statistic is that the more intelligent or average intelligence a society is, the more atheistic it is as well. So do not bring some space wizard into a point of moral fucking superiority, because it's just not. And it's
I wasn't doing that, Stingray. I was saying from the flat earthers' perspective, they are attacking from what you guys were talking about, how they attack Jose and they attack all other flat earthers who leave that community.
Yes, but what I'm
they're
saying,
supposed to love one another like Christ taught, then they are directly going against that teaching. And I was trying to be very general and not specific, and not get in an argument about it, because I knew Jose didn't want to go there, so I didn't want to go there.
Here's the thing: everything that I just said, you can verify. And my entire criticism to what you said was as follows: to say that someone should act better because they are religious is utterly moronic. Because if you look at the studies, religious society has a higher crime rate than an atheistic society. And that also...
Really? What about Sherman Mao? He's atheist.
Oh, don't start. We're not going down this rabbit hole, because we're not. That's not the conversation. We're not doing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's not get into this.
I'm gonna break it down with reading this super chat by John Watson with £5. Thank you very much, John Watson. Leo's favorite color is not the official color of the globe Earth. He is now an outcast. You have been shunned, Lyle. Thank you very much, John Watson.
My favorite color is green. Thanks, John Watson.
I think the thing is, though, that you can see, not to the same extent, but you do see similar attitudes on both sides of this. I will say it's more prevalent on the flat earth side, but I've seen globers being equally as kind of shunning and attacking and planning attacks. So, I don't think anyone's not got blood on their hands in this game.
I mean, I've seen on many occasions flat earthers not just generally accuse people of being paedophiles, but literally try and make it a real accusation to try and get somebody in hot water, right? I've seen a flat earther try and encourage someone in his flock to try and track someone down, to try and hack into somebody's computer system, to identify them and their family. multiple death threats, etc., etc., etc.
True that. I've been in the receiving end of false accusations, and like that, me being called, me being accused of despicable acts that I never even thought about, and I mean it's
easy.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's easy to do ad hominem attacks at people that don't agree with you. That's lame.
Yeah, but
it's below the belt.
It's common, obviously, in general for these kind of insults to be thrown around, but some people take it to an extra level where it's actually dangerous for the other people involved.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jose, but I'm going to shout out Lemonbird. I don't think he's ever attacked you for leaving Flat Earth, has he?
I don't think not directly, indirectly, but not directly, and I appreciate that. It's okay.
Not like the ones that say, "Oh, f you, you're a
no.
retard."
Lemonbird is being called. Yeah, no, Lemonbird is always being the same. Yeah.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you. I mean, in the flat earth, do we think that there are government shells and agents trying to keep us from a creator with the heliocentric ball, emphasis on HELL? Sure. But that doesn't mean that everybody is necessarily a shill paid agent or necessarily trying to keep us from the truth of a creator who made a flat and domed plane necessarily.
All right. Do you want to get to the last section?
Yes, please. I gotta do I did the shout out. Yeah. Go ahead, man. Let's wrap it up, and then we'll leave it open for everybody for a little bit, and we'll get out of here.
All right. So this addresses again a point that was being raised earlier when originally we were talking about leaders, and then it was raised later about by Sean G. I think about the change with social media. So this is about the social media dynamic. So whereas before, isolation from external sources, able to distract potential indoctrinates from the cult's encroaching influence, such as worried family members, would have been achieved in a more literal sense, removing a person from their normal surroundings to a place where only cult members are able to gather. Social media has changed the structure of the modern cult by allowing members to gather together from anywhere in the world easily, simply by searching for and finding those who share their way of thinking, or who speak to their sense of loneliness and disaffection, something which has become somewhat of an epidemic in modern society. The current boom in social media sites lends itself to an undeniably disturbing irony, in that it affords us the ability to connect with virtual friends and form a larger social circle, unhindered by geographic boundaries, yet simultaneously isolates us as we retreat into our online world surrounded by like-minded people who often act as mirrors for all of our social and psychological flaws. YouTube in particular is full of erstwhile gurus, many of whom are remarkably successful at being able to gather together willing audiences, ranging from a few hundred to hundreds of thousands and even millions in the case of the more popular channels. An online platform with so many narcissistic personalities desperate to spread their version of the truth to willing followers, and a society filled with ignorant, uneducated, damaged or vulnerable people looking to be accepted and given a sense of purpose by like-minded peers experiencing similar social or psychological pressures, is the perfect cauldron for brewing a modern-day cult able to effectively isolate its members through careful manipulation. This is a unique social dynamic in modern times which allows for the groupthink mentality to survive and even thrive without the need for a singular cult leader in the traditional sense. All that is required is the dissemination of misinformation, and the right people will follow, believe, and spread the word. Social media makes this much easier than ever, turning what once used to be a much more isolated practice into the viral spread of cult indoctrination, often sped along with the use of a carefully selected blend of visual and audio stimuli designed to trigger the audience's innate biases and fears. As has been pointed out, many of the primary channels and content creators have a background in media and performance arts. Thus, YouTube provides an undeniable opportunity for those who choose the role of guru to manipulate their followers by means of a platform which affords them the chance to employ the use of targeted media-based propaganda. Also noted previously, in Flat Earth there are some undeniable trends, including the age group, social status and education level of its proponents, particularly with regard to literacy and numeracy. Dyscalculia in particular appears to be a prime motivator behind the many misconceptions upon which the most common Flat Earth memes rely. Mistakes and lies can be easily fed to such people through these manipulative tactics, because they are unable to see what the mistakes are or to realise why the information is false. While it is designed to feed the paranoia or fears, their political agendas, their social insecurity or ineptitude, and their need to feel a part of something special in a package that appeals to the senses more than the rational mind. So I think there's a last little paragraph, but I don't think it's necessary to read it out. But, well, actually I will. So it's no wonder that the cult mentality continues to thrive, with the modern Flat Earth movement being a prime example of the ability of narcissistic personalities to manipulate others without the need for literal isolation from the rest of society, a newer trend which is well recognised by social scientists of today. So, to summarise that in some way, there is a recognised problem with social media and a multitude of cult-like personalities appearing there, gathering together large amounts of followers from all over the world, but the techniques used to manipulate people still work. So although they aren't literally being dragged away to a compound, they're still, they're staying within these little groups. Just like we're saying, the Flat Earth Discord server is a good example. Obviously, this doesn't just refer to Flat Earth, but that's our topic. But, you got people who set themselves up as gurus. They've got millions of followers. They're telling people how to live their lives, and these people believe every word of it, and they donate every penny to them. So the techniques and everything, it's still sort of the same, but the platform itself can make it easier in a way because everything's being fed through that kind of audio-visual. It's something that appeals to the senses rather than necessarily making good arguments and believable philosophies and so on.
Okay, quick question. Do you think that a part of the problem is some of the algorithms used by things like YouTube to present information to you? Because I tend to find people get caught in this little kind of algorithmical bubble.
I think that, it's obviously, I think it's a well-recognised problem that the YouTube algorithm was largely responsible for it.
I think it's part of the problem.
Excuse me, sorry. Sorry, I don't have much more to that, to be honest. Yes, it's a problem. Whether they claim to have tried to change it to some extent, which I think they have a little bit, it doesn't matter, because it's out there in the wild now.
I think as well that flat earthers do often retreat in their echo chambers, and they don't let outsiders come in and question them as much as, like, the general trend is that globers go to flat earthers to debate. It's not the other way around. Or am I wrong? I don't know. Like, that, for me, that's the experience,
Yeah, definitely now, especially is say there's been a change in that. The first and second generation sort of thing. It was a bit more open. Kind of, this was crossover there. The attitudes, I guess, were sort of generally the same. They wouldn't still be flat earthers. They're quite willing to reject information, but there was a lot more social interaction. But now it's all about echo chambers.
All right, I got a comment to read over here. Big $10 super chat by Julio Pavon. Thank you very much, Julio. Appreciate that, brother. Muchas gracias. If any of you would be able to answer this honestly, please do. So, as I am genuinely curious, if this second in time flat Earth is announced to be a fact by world governments, what will your reaction be? Anybody want to answer that question?
I will. I'd love to have a go first.
Please go.
My reaction would be exactly the same if all world governments simultaneously announced that I was made out of potatoes. It would be, you're all fucking retarded. It's that simple.
Yeah, a situation like that, you would just go, well, something's wrong. You know, something's been hacked. Somebody's been, you know. I'd rather believe that the person's been the victim of body snatching than what they're actually saying.
Lizard people.
I think
So much
I,
evidence.
I think you'd see a lot more planes going lost or crashing as well, like especially from that particular country. Because if they teach their people that the Earth is flat, then you're gonna see a whole lot of stuff go wrong.
But that's not what we see with Robotham. He was implying in his literature from like the 1800s that ships were getting out of reckoning and crashing because of this globe belief. They were way ahead of where they should have been in their degrees or whatever, and off reckoning because of this globe model that's extremely inaccurate, especially as you get down past the poles. I mean, past the equator, where the land appears to expand outward like on a flattish pizza. So it looks like the actual evidence is the opposite of what we're told with this, fake history. And that's where some of the secret knowledge comes in, where people are like, why don't people see this obvious deception? And sometimes people are upset even at themselves for being bamboozled for so long, making them feel a little, hostile and angry and arrogant and prideful. And that could lead to some culty-ish behavior potentially. But sometimes we just got to be a little humble. That's all.
Yeah, I think that Robotham also misdiagnosed that thing then. I mean, to say that, ships crash because they base themselves on the model of the globe solely because they do that, it's a non sequitur. You can't say, well, because ships crash, therefore, because of, you don't know why in most cases, especially in those times. So to say that it's because they base themselves on a globe, that's a non sequitur, I'd say.
Well, history doesn't really offer a narrative as to why these ship navigators are crashing. So if the only model in ascendancy is the globe, one would assume that the globe reckoning is what is shipwrecking and ruining these ships.
Lemon, in Hebrew, we have a phrase, in free translation, it's like, the one who wants to lie will distance his testimony. Why you always go to rock bottom? Why we don't have ships now all over the place? No one is getting lost.
Well, in English or whatever, we have a saying or whatever. When you want to tell the truth, you talk about what you've seen and heard. All I can say is what I've heard from Robotham, since I'm not a sailor, so you can take it or leave it.
You talk about what Robotham seen and heard, or so he say.
Yeah, that's what we go off of. The stuff that we've heard from other people when they tell us stuff in school or tell us stuff in court. We go off the trusted testimony from a trusted source.
What you're choosing as a source is anecdotes from a known con man.
Yeah, be careful with appeal to authority here. Like that's a dangerous trap here. Watch out.
Nobody's a flat earthologist, so as far as I can tell, none of us are authorities on the shape of the earth. None of us are shape of the earthologists, flat earthologists. We're just bringing our particular areas of expertise, if any, to bear on the subject to try to solve the issue. That's it.
There are lots of reasons why ships can sink. Bad weather, bad captains, mutinies, scurvy.
Icebergs.
But what your problem is, you have to figure out why they succeeded.
I need to do
how
something.
Magellan made it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to do something that I should have done 5 minutes ago before we went down this rabbit hole. I need to get final thoughts on the actual topic on the cult. The presentation that Alkay did, it was in an interactive presentation that he did. And I really want to thank you, Alkay, because it was great, man. It was good. It was easier on me, you were kind of, the presenter of the show. You held the weight of the show today. So thank you, Alkay. I appreciate that, bro.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and now I want to give a round, and I'm going to mention everybody quickly. Final thoughts on about the cult. If you either learned anything today, you got any comment, question, concerns, just try to keep it 30 seconds or less, and then I will let the show roll another 15 or 20 minutes as an open topic about anything you guys want to talk. But Blue Marble Science, thoughts on the cult main topic. Bogov. Oalem.
Yeah, good show, good presentation. I like that a lot. That was great. I have experience in cults. We could go on this subject for quite a while. It's really cool. And yeah, Flat Earth is a cult, and some are more cultish. Some groups are more cultish than others.
Yeah, we're not getting out of here yet. I mean, you guys, this is not final thoughts. This is your final thoughts on the topic about the cult, and we can continue talking about it. But I think we were going a different direction now from the cult, so I want to finish it there strong. C4. Any final thoughts about the cult? Shaik.
I wasn't here for the topic.
All right, Gary, you were listening about the cults. You got any thoughts on that? Hugh Janus.
I've been researching cults for a while and Flat Earth since 2016. And Alke's research is 100% spot on. Everything, very, very few people. I mean, I don't know how many people have really heard it really spoken. Basically, Eric Dubé started the whole thing. Mark Sargent picked it up. And people like Rob Sieber, D. Nodal, all those people got it from Mark Sargent. So there's a definite pattern. And I've not heard anyone actually say that. So props to RK.
Thank you. J-Mac, your thoughts so far? Kawasaki Ninja, you were listening most of the presentation. Your thoughts on the cult?
Yeah, sorry, I had to dip in and out because I was busy earlier. But yeah, Flat Earth. The Earth is not flat, but also it's not a globe, and that is the cult model.
Left Lane, you have been listening. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, the show so far. What are your thoughts on the cult, man? Oh, yeah, bad spot, man. We'll go back to you, man. You're bad spot. Mars Mushrooms. Marble Merman.
I actually quite enjoyed it. I mean, learning more about the cult mentality has been kind of interesting. And yeah, I do believe Flat Earth is a cult. That's how I feel.
Mojok Man.
It is a cult. Nothing more. That is all.
What is a cult?
Flat Earth.
Okay. And we got Fetisist, Lemon Bird. Your opinion on cults?
Well, the flat earth appears to be true based off of our experiences. Their cult-like behavior that's demonstrated, sure. I think Walter Martin said it best when he said that all cults deny the divinity of Jesus Christ. And I think that some of the flat earthers got uncomfortable with religion or some of the religious implications of something flat and covered by a dome. Even if they wanted to acknowledge a creator, they shied away from Christianity or Jesus or things like that. And I think that's where some of the cultic control of the topic emerged, where there were topics, religious or otherwise, that they simply didn't want to deal with. And eventually they basically became, in a way, another kind of, Christ denying cult, saying, sure, it's flat and it's created, but we're not going to say who it's created by or go into any of those implications. So I think that's where some of the cultic control is coming from. If we say that a cult is a group that's controlling your mind or your behavior or controlling where you can go, I think that's the only place in which cultic activity is emerging.
Right. Sean G. Cult.
Yeah, definitely respect. Great presentation. Okay, thanks for bringing the topic up. I think it's more important. I don't think that Flat Earth is a cult. I just think there are these people that have turned their groups into a. I don't think that every Flat Earther falls into the category of
You're roboting a bit, Sean.
Say again?
You're roboting quite a bit there.
My bad. Is this a little bit better?
Yes. Can hear that.
Okay. I was just saying, I don't think that Flat Earth in itself is a cult. I think there are these people that have taken advantage of the topic to ensue their cult-like situations and groups. But I I definitely do appreciate you bringing the topic up, because it is an important topic, and how these things work and how people believe in a lot of things.
Thank you. Yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Sean Smith, what are your thoughts on the cult?
Oh, I think it's been a great presentation so far. A lot of good information. There's so many different examples that we can use, to compare some of the aspects of flat Earth with cult. Just recently, you have Ranty, who left the flat Earth and was immediately ostracized by his supposed friends and stuff. And the proponents that are in charge were telling the people that are underneath of them to ostracize them. I think there's a big discrepancy in how the information is passed on to the people that are underneath. The leaders give out information, but only certain parts of the information. It's not the full story. It's what they want to give out so that they can continue reading off of this narrative that they've been given, or that they want to give out. And the isolationism, it's still quite apparent that they use tactics such as, coming into this Discord server to stir the pot so that they can go back and say, this is why you don't want to go over and talk to the Globeheads, because this is what they do to you. And meanwhile, they're the ones that are coming in to cause an issue. Without actually trying to find the truth. They're asking questions that they know have an answer, but they don't want to get the full answer. They only want to get part of the answer so that they can fit their narrative once again. Nathan Oakley had the one time I think I watched it once, maybe twice. Nathan Oakley would start off his show with, basically a mantra of, is there this proof, and what's this, and what's this, and and basically it's just reinforcing the information that he wants to give, not the information that should be given out, but the information that he wants to give. So, there are quite a few of those people out there, and it's a little scary to think that you have these people that are these individuals that are taking advantage of how the world is continually isolating itself by going online. Yes, you're opening borders and stuff like that, but essentially you're not face to face with another person to see what their actual reaction is when you start asking questions, because you can hide your face behind a computer and continue to perpetuate a lie, and it's a lot easier to do that than it is in person. So yeah, hats off to Al K for this, and hats off to you, Jose, for a great amount of information, and continuing to do what you do. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. It was a little longer, but I allow it. Appreciate it, bro. It's Nestle Wipes. I see you muted. Let's see who this is. Your thoughts on the cult so far, brother?
Yeah, it's just me, Jose Grubus,
okay.
on my alt account. Yeah. I thought I accidentally tuned into a TED talk there for a second when I first tuned in, but yeah, okay, well done, I have to say. Cults, my opinion. My brother was in one, so yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that one. They were horrible.
Yep, thank you, man. Space Pope, what are your thoughts? We got a few more people here, and then we'll give you guys the mic back.
Yeah, Flat Earth is a cult. Flat Earthers are retards. They don't deserve any respect. So when you deal with them, don't show any mercy. Do your worst. Babs out.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
Hot. Yeah. Jody, go ahead, man.
I'm not sure where to go after that.
Maybe I'm gonna go where I was planning to go. Yeah, I agree with Sanji quite a lot. I don't think that Flat Earth as a whole is necessarily a cult, but there are certainly groups within Flat Earth that are cult, like Bev's crew comes to mind. Just a small example of cult-like behavior that, at least to me, was there. I enter his server for the first time and engage in conversation. I can immediately sense that there's hostility brewing. You can tell it from the room. And then someone brings up how ridiculous my globe thinking is and makes the obvious and oft-repeated comparison of, well, would you believe in Santa Claus if someone told you that Santa Claus is real? And what does Bev do? The master in the room. He turns to me and says, see, you're here, and now we're talking about ridiculous stuff like, is Santa Claus real? I'm like, dude, I didn't fucking bring it up, man. So if you're gonna blame someone, blame the dude who brought it up. It's not my bloody problem. But of course, to me, that's showing that you do not want me to be here. That's why they stay inside their own little room and they block Globers and harass them when they come in. They don't actually want the interaction. And when the interaction happens, there are only few goals that they have. Drive the Glober out, and when they are doing that, they are at the same time getting egotistical satisfaction from annoying the Glober and taking revenge on them, because they know that they are not on the winning side actually. And that this is what I truly believe. A lot of that behavior is down to taking revenge and being pathological because you know deep down that you might not be correct. That's
very
my
well
thoughts.
said. Yeah, very well said, man. Very well said. The Stingray and then Wave Seeker, and then you guys can take the room for another 10-15 minutes, and then we'll get out of here.
Forget about me, because I wanted to say something really quick. I got to get out of here.
All right, then you go ahead. Yeah.
Flat Earth is not a cult, but you can think of it as a cult. That's all.
Thank you.
That was excellent.
The Stingray, go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, I thought Al's information and presentation was really good. Just a shame about his accent. And I do think Flat Earth exhibits much the same characteristics that you could assign certainly cult-like behavior, because the most prominent one of those is ignore common sense, ignore what is obvious, and go with what you've been told, no matter how you want to believe it. And to me, that's one of the most principal things that I'd see in a cult is ignore the obvious and go with what you want to believe or your group anyway. So yes, Flat Earth cultish.
Thank you. Wave Seeker.
Yeah, I was here late, but for me, yeah, Flat Earth is a cult based on the following reasons. Cults convince you that everybody is lying to isolate you. Cults convince you the people that aren't lying have been brainwashed to discredit outside influence. Cults demonize education as indoctrination to keep you ignorant and discredit outsider arguments. Cults are elitist, convincing you that you have learned something amazing only woke people know about to make you feel good about yourself, smarter and more important. Cults provide an empowering message like saving the world and or waking people up to create a mission and obsessive loyalty. Cults create an us versus them mentality, keeping you in conflict with society to create ununified solidarity, strengthening group mentality and ID. Cults build emotional and senses-based arguments to turn you away from rational thought, to make you more susceptible to suggestion. Cults employ crisis creation techniques to keep you confused and at odds with your surroundings so you don't have the wits to second guess. Cults utilize divine commission to create purpose, such as revealing God's plan to create a bigger purpose and imperative. And cults create an unfalsifiable argument so they can be proven wrong. If a counter argument is strong, it is a lie. If it is proof, it is faked. If it can't be discredited, the source is bad, etc., ad nauseum. Cults attract people with low self-esteem, cultural dissatisfaction, spiritual identity crisis, low tolerance for ambiguity, and a desire or need to belong to a select group. Based on those, flat Earth is a cult for me.
If you were not reading that out from that you'd already pre-written, then I'm impressed.
I am impressed. No, that's it. That's
and
great.
if that wasn't written, please write that out and post it in the side chat.
I posted it in the chat. I was reading it out.
Good times, man. Good times. That's great. Now I got a question to the whole room. Is there such thing as a individual flat earthers doing their own thing, have only found either by coincidence or somebody introduced them to flat earth and they are on their own doing their own thing, which no followers with they're not following anybody? So because I think that every single flat earther that are active on social media and YouTube follow certain groups of people.
Yes, I agree. For a long time, I kind of think that Gary was doing his own thing until I started watching a few other older videos, and it's pretty much word for word what they were saying.
And anytime I've randomly found some, unknown flat earther on YouTube, some little person, with 2 followers if you're lucky or something stupid, making their own little videos, and they've got a handful of videos on the channel, so they're totally unknown. The actual things that they're presenting in the video, the arguments, the things they're trying to say are pretty much word for word something I've heard somewhere else from, known flat earth people, some of them gurus,
Actually,
something that I need to mention, something that this conversation, this debate has been had before, over a year ago, I think it was Fight to Flat Earth and Planner Walk. One was saying it was a cult, the other was saying it's not, and they went by the criteria. It's like a 13-point criteria. There's different criterias, like Alk mentioned earlier, but it was hitting almost all of them, and especially if you focused on Oakley's, it ticked off nearly all of the criteria.
Yeah, I had a final part of the thing that I'd written, but I haven't read it out. It's like my conclusion that I wrote for the video and whatever. But a couple of the things that get mentioned in the conclusion haven't technically been covered by the rest of it. Just specific points about some of the things that flat earthers do. And one of those things is destroying material. So you've got book burning, which I've seen happening, ripping up books, and I've seen people going to the beach with all their globe models and burning the globe and all this kind of stuff. So I've seen that kind of thing happening, and there's no way you're going to turn around and say that isn't some form of cultish behaviour. And another thing about it is about some of the kind of bigger channels is that these people are known to be fake, like Nathan Oakley, not his real name, a sad, desperate little man who really wanted to be famous and get on telly, and he never managed to do it, so he's doing everything he can to get a following and be famous somehow, And then you got one of the weird ones, Dell. For some reason, people seem to think that whether no matter what they think of the guy, whether you're a globe earther or whatever, a lot of people are for some reason under the impression that Dell is real, that he's not fake in some way. But he's not only an obvious fake as far as I'm concerned, but he's an admitted fake in terms of how he presents himself. He's turned around and admitted that all the kind of, I don't believe him 100%, I think he's a genuinely angry fucking idiot, but what I mean is I know when you watch him, you can see he is going out of his way to fan the flames. He's got a little act that he puts on where he gets people riled up, like a preacher, and he admits it. He admits that he puts on a certain amount of an act to deliver the message that he wants to deliver. So
that begs
these
the
are more
question,
traits that you would associate with cult leaders. You know what I mean?
So that begs the question: what's in it for him? If for some these small people are like just they're
Money.
not gaining monetarily out of it, nothing. A lot of them aren't.
Attention.
And it's
Yeah.
kind of histrionic. And some of them, like Del, for example, whether he's for fake or for real, it's still a misanthrope. And by misanthrope, I mean this is the type of personality that just hates humanity.
Well, the main cultic behaviors that
It's about the money thing. It doesn't take much money. Or what would you consider a lot of money? I mean, if you think of, say, I don't know, $100 or £100, you say £100 a month, that would be enough for someone like that, right?
Well, the
It
main
doesn't take much money.
Well, the main cultic behaviors you see with Flat Earth is when you're trying to control the discussion. Keep it away from uncomfortable topics, unknowns, or in particular religion, especially as far as I can see, Christianity. That is where the most cultic elements tend to manifest when the attempt is to try to control and gear the discussion in a certain direction. But other than that, I mean, the Flat Earth is just, true, but I think people are just desperately looking for information from any sector that they can find, be it Dell, this, chat or that chat.
Can I respond to that real quickly? If the flat Earth is true, why does it mind being questioned? Why does it always resort in muting? Because if I go to a flat Earth group, I always get muted if I ask questions or clarify stuff. A lie does not like being challenged.
Depends on where you go. That's dependent on where you go.
Well, every single flat Earth group I've ever in Discord.
Me too.
So
the attempt is basically control the discussion. What were you saying, Alkay?
I was going to say another part of that is one of the things we've already discussed is you try and actually challenge a flat earther to provide proof, to provide evidence to back the claims. It's everything you can do to avoid that. Either conversation is, there's an attempt to derail the conversation to a completely different topic altogether. They run away and hide, or they inevitably try, most importantly, most commonly, to try and redirect questions back at you. Everything's answered with a question rather than an answer, and that question is always an attempt to get you back onto talking about the globe and not flat Earth.
Well, I mean, the attempt for control is a big factor.
And sorry, go ahead.
Sean, sorry.
I was just saying that, was exhibited by the exact thing that Kawasaki Ninja was doing himself.
Yeah,
it's exactly that. That's a tall tale sign, like you were saying before, that it's coming from a group mentality rather than independent thinking.
Isn't that
like the phrase, like the horizon can't be more than 1.22 miles away or something like that. That's like a,
It isn't the thing is, it isn't the sentiments themselves necessarily. It's the fact that they are repeated verbatim.
Yeah, or when you want to share some evidence, flat earthers say they are all about science and evidence, but when you want to show evidence that contradicts their beliefs, or to counter their evidence, then they mute you or they ban you,
nothing you show is considered to be appropriate. Somehow it's not good enough. And when you say, well, what is good enough? What is your standard of evidence?
That's what
you just get a big diatribe and you never get an answer.
Well, there's also another kind of muting, which is the fundy muting, where they just overtalk you and never let you complete a thought.
Can I give a quick shout out to Martin? Martin just supported the channel with $10 via PayPal. Thank you very much, Martin. Nice. Appreciate it. And he actually say, thanks for the layback yet engaging boom. Thank you very much. That's the whole idea. It was layback, more relaxing the download, and it was still engaging. And I'm glad that we had a big audience to witness it in real time and have fun and engaging. That was good, man. Appreciate it.
Well,
sorry,
Oh, the discussion does get controlled, and that's why they say we're just going to stick to science, no speculation, nothing that's an uncomfortable topic. And so that's where the elements of control come out. We're not going to talk about this. We're going to shut this down or this level of discussion down and just talk about the basics so we don't have to go into uncomfortable topics. But in a way, it kind of strangles the discussion to death because people want to talk about the religious implications. They want to talk about speculating about models or how this would work or how that would work. And even some of the, legitimate quote unquote science or whatever that even goes with, a flat earth, like, Aries failure or, at least stuff that it points at being geocentric, like, Michelson Morley, Michelson Gale, if not flat based off of the observations and stuff like that.
More references. Remember the conversation we had last time, Lemon? I was asking why you insist on bringing up 100-year-old tests and experiments.
Because the truth doesn't change.
They're repeated.
It doesn't change in 100 years, 10,000 years.
Well, the Michelson-Gale experiment, I think, has been repeated to this date, and it has to be shown. Wait, let me just wait. It shows that it has been measured with increasing accuracy towards the current day, and it's still evidence for a globe or the absence of an ether. I don't know. I have to look it up. The Michelson-Gale experiment, but yeah.
What about the putting satellites in orbit experiment? Why are you ignoring those? I just want to know.
There's actually plans. It might take a while, but there's plans to put an interferometer in space. It's one of the things they're working towards.
Wasn't there like a huge interferometer built in like some inside the ground somewhere?
Yep. And it's used every day, I think, to measure Earth's rotation, but apparently not according to certain people.
Oh yeah, it's the Sagnac effect. That's the Michelson-Gale Pearson experiment. Just give me a second.
One in space will be nice because it won't have all the little trucks and earthquakes and all that to contend with.
I was just gonna say, when we go to actual science and we bring up references to the things we talk about, that's when you guys like to deny what's actually being presented.
It's personal incredulity based. That is one of the main things that I come across as well. Personal incredulity. If it doesn't align with their views, personal incredulity. So you have to ask in advance. What evidence are you willing to accept that disproves your claim that the Earth is flat? And if they don't accept that, then you can say that, and then they have a personal problem because they said themselves they would accept it and they didn't. So
you generally don't either don't get an answer to that question, or you get a ridiculous answer to that question that requires an unrealistic standard of proof, like take a tape measure to the sun.
Moving goalposts. Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
I got earlier, like I was talking with Flirther about like the virus, the coronavirus, and he said, "Well,
Big C. We call it Big C, and we don't talk about that topic here. Thank you very much.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Yeah, off topic.
Off topic. Okay, good.
Back to the topic. We actually don't mention that word. That word is forbidden to talk in this channel to mention. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No
back to the topic. Somebody mentioned the giant interferometer. Yeah, that's called LIGO, and it's built to detect gravitational waves.
I think the one that we're talking about, there's another one, and it's built underground. And
I can post a link.
That's another one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can actually like generalize it. Like, for example, any method of measuring, if it's not with like, if you can't do it with your hands or see it with your own eyes, it's not scientific. That's a claim that I've heard, for example. So
if your tool is man-made,
yeah, so it's like okay, then how do you measure things, right? Like, how do you determine something? Like, is everything false then? Like, how do you? What's your acceptance for evidence then?
Well, I think the simple objective there is to try and discredit all of science and to say that you can't scientifically show evidence for that.
And then at the same time, they say like, yeah, but we base ourselves on science. But at the same time, they're like, no, this isn't science. They just cherry pick science. So that for me is just like, why would you do that if you claim that, you know?
Well, their science ends with boiling water.
I gotta
heat makes water boil.
I gotta do this shout out. Shout out to Truth Nurse. He has been a member for 2 months already. As time flies, man. Thank you very much. And Truth Nurse says, I pointed this out to Lemon in Discord just a week ago. Michelson Gale Pearson is perfectly explained by general relativity, Sagnac effect. He ignored it and just continues line. No surprise. Thank you, Truth Nurse. How about that, Lemonbird, man? If this has been mentioned to you and you know about the Sagnac effect and the theory of general relativity, you're still clinging to this Michelson girl experimenting. Eh? Lemon is not here, just kind of a rhetoric question.
Well, in that case, can I just quickly make a note of something stupid? I glanced at the YouTube chat, and there's Chris Berry exemplifying exactly one of the things we've been talking about. Black Swan debunks the you know, he's obviously talking about the horizon or whatever, but
of course,
you know, 2.5 years later.
I've got one thing to say about the Black Swan: refraction. Refraction. It's a variable. Take it into account, and then look which image is more refracted.
No, there's no refraction. There's no refraction in the Black Swan argument. Of course there's not. They can't have refraction there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but just
so
saying Black Swan...
They must separate themselves from reality because we live in an atmosphere where there is refraction to be taken into consideration. So they just want to separate themselves from reality and talk about a non-realistic argument, presenting this Black Swan with no refraction. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I actually have a question for the entire group based on the Black Swan. Does anybody have two images of something hidden by a hill and then that object behind that hill becoming visible due to refraction?
Yes,
because
I do.
Oh, can you send that to me, please? Because I was asked to provide that evidence, and I couldn't.
Hi, Chris.
So,
by any chance?
So this
Wave
is
Seeker.
from what's his name? Here's two. I'll give you two of them.
Where
from
are you
Bearded
posting them?
Devil. Yep, right now on Daily Boom.
Daily Boom Uncensored?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
So it's of a laser, right? He's got two images. One is on a flat surface and one is on a curved surface.
Yeah, so they just spout it's chanting, you know, Black Swan proves this, Black Swan's that. It's just route memorization. It's Ave Maria. It's just quoting a little memorized prayer.
Earth is life.
Oh wow, that's cool. Thank you, man. Earth is life.
And one important thing that comes to the Black Swan that you got to remember, if you're looking at that either image, the horizon is in front of the oil platform. It's not behind it. It's in front of it. So there's obstruction to the first platform.
Yes, I've got that video. It was by Bob the Science Guy, I think it was.
After you,
none of that matters.
Bob's Dippy.
You can just repeat a mantra.
All right, we need to get Chris Berry in here for a few minutes before we wrap it up. We've been here for a while. Here comes Chris.
Bob's Dippy Earth model, huh? That old thing. The Earth blocks the rig, and then it comes back up behind the rig, higher than the rig.
Yes. No, that's
Chris.
Dippy Earth model, everyone. Get on board.
That's high level
at all.
refraction that
Totally,
occurs.
whatever some guy on the internet named Dr. Bob says, gotta believe it. Must be true.
Chris, I can tell you now. I've been to that location. I've looked into it. I've looked into the platforms where they're located. Everything. I can tell you for a fact the horizon is in front of that first platform. Just in the fact that it's missing 20 feet that is being
Wow.
obstructed in any of those pictures.
So what's behind the rigs then? What's that stuff behind the rigs?
Sean, I got a quick question for Chris in between, which this was kind of more pertinent to the point you made. Do you believe what Bob is saying and the argument, Chris Berry? That's a quick question. Chris Berry, do you believe the argument that Bob the Science Guy was making, the point you brought?
Do I believe it?
Yeah, that's the question.
Which point?
The point that you brought, you say Bob the Science Guy say this, and
I don't
do you
believe
believe that point? You
No, because he's not proven anything.
Perfect.
He
Now,
supposedly used that.
now,
And he
a
says,
follow up to
15
that.
feet are missing.
The follow up
It's
to
gotta
that
be Earth
is
curve.
the follow up to that is: have you spoken to Bob about this? And
I have.
second part of the question: do you see Bob in here?
I have.
Well,
somebody else brought him up.
Right now,
mentioned
you brought him up now as out of nowhere as
No,
your
I
first
didn't bring him
argument.
up.
Your first argument that you made, when you open your mouth, you mentioned Bob. Is he here? He's not here.
No, someone else mentioned Bob.
Perfect. Now they were as they were talking in the middle, maybe at the end of the conversation. But the first point that you made when you opened your mouth was Bob. So you want to talk either with Bob or about Bob. Do you want to talk about Bob? What about Bob?
I'm just responding to the other person who ever brought Bob up.
No, you're just thinking about Bob. Yeah, but you're thinking about Bob. You're thinking about Bob, Chris.
And I will explain why he
at
All right, come on, man.
At 17 minutes and 40 seconds, he talks about fairy fog, and it's a well-documented effect. It also had to do with fairy fog. Yes, indeed.
Where is that documented in the model?
Chris, I don't think he was finished talking, Chris.
So if you wanna, I'll post it. You know, I posted the video. If you he also posted his own video about fraction in the Titanic, because that had to do, you know, probably with the Titanic. I haven't seen that video yet, but I suggest you just go look at it. If you dismiss it, then provide evidence why you dismiss it. But it's a well-known fact. Fairy fog is
I've already done that. What does fairy fog have to do with anything, by the way?
that accounts for that horizon appearing to be further than the front of the platform. Because there are false horizons in this image, in that heavily distorted image.
You're in a cult.
How do you spell fairy fog, by the way?
Listen to what you're fucking saying.
Oh my god.
Oh, great. Perfect example.
Yeah, we gotta wait
You
turns.
are in a cult.
We gotta wait turns.
talk about
Brian,
a cult.
sorry, I
Wow.
had to mute you, Brian. You cannot interrupt in between two people talking like that. Just wait your turn. Wait your turn.
Why not?
Because we're not having that show today.
Can't have a discussion about cult behavior and then
Yes.
prove you're all in a cult.
We're having a discussion in here when one person speaks, and then when that person finishes, another person answers. We're not coming in hot in between a discussion and just randomly swearing and insulting and talking just out of nowhere like that. We're just talking like adults.
So we're
spell
actually
fairy fog?
going through criteria and discussing how certain behaviors
we
are
haven't heard
present
enough
and
from
giving
Al. He's
actual
gotta interrupt
arguments and demonstrations, not just shouting, "You're in a fucking cult." You know, so maybe if you want to talk about cults, you could have a conversation about it instead of just
How do you
shouting.
spell fairy fog?
Just listen.
Yes, fairy fog. Yeah, okay. So wait a minute. Yes, it is a well-documented here, a Fata Bromosa, Glossary of Meteorology.
Oh, it's a Fata Bromosa.
Yes, it's a.
Are you saying that's the same as fairy fog?
Yes, it's fairy fog. That's the
How do you
name
spell
translates
fairy
as
fog?
fairy fog. Yes, it's a type of Fata Morgana.
How do you spell fairy fog, and where do I find that?
FAIRYFOG. Fairy fog.
One word or two?
Two, like fairies. Fairy fog.
I'm not. Google's not finding anything.
I mean,
Well, use fairy
Fata-
fog,
Fata-
horizon.
Wait a minute here. Fata. Here, this is the official name.
Fata.
Fata Bromosa. Look it up.
So how
Yeah,
does
fata means fairy.
Exactly.
Let's see, Fata Bromosa.
So at the end of the day, the
Form of
thing
Fata
is
Morgana,
there's refraction in the
flat
image.
uniformly unlimited service.
And
he appears as
the
Oh
supposed
my god,
argument
this is
behind
hilarious. The first definition that comes up.
intentionally leaves out
Okay.
refraction, and it's
I'll let us
coming
know when you're
from
done. We'll get back to the
channel.
All right. Okay, you gotta
Spent it-
finish the point so we get Chris his whole point.
I was just going to say it's coming from a channel that's first denied refraction, then relies on refraction to try and deny the globe. So it's just all.
What
a
channel
word
are you
game.
talking about? What channel?
I showed here. This is another video.
Is Al just mumbling to himself? Does he know we're all listening and can hear him?
Yes, I'm not sure if you're aware that we can hear you because you seem to be cutting over people.
Anyways, so I googled Fata Formosa, and the first definition that comes up is a form of Fata Morgana in which the flat and uniformly illuminated surface of the sea appears as a vertical or slightly overhanging wall of fog. That's hilarious.
What's funny about that? Well, because it says flat.
It's flat.
Of course.
Yeah, because
And
it's childish.
all of Fata Formosa is a overhanging wall of fog, and Bob is trying to say that's why the horizon is miles away.
Looks further.
Behind the rigs. That's hilarious.
Again, I don't see that as funny. I don't see that as funny.
Sounds very culty. You guys just believe that this Dr. Bob character says it's fog, and it's like swamp gas, right? Like, oh, swamp gas, it's fog.
Relays the information, but it's right there in the definition.
Yeah, let's not talk about the people. Let's talk about the argument. Let's not talk about who brought the argument. Let's talk about the argument.
Well, when I look at argument is from incredulity and mockery.
When I look at the image of the black swan, when I look at the image of the black,
now they believe in
Chris,
fairy
can you hear
fog.
me?
Or actually, your mic's low and it's cutting out.
Okay.
To be honest.
When I look at the image of the black swan, the one that's backlit by the sun, where you can kind of see this what appears to me to be fairy fog, because you can see that it's got the orange tinge to it, and you can see a distinct line. Okay.
Oh, you're a fairy fog expert now all of a sudden?
No, I'm looking at what the definition of fairy fog is, and then looking at that image and seeing that when you play with the contrast and everything, you can see that the horizon is not where Oakley and Club is pointing to say is the horizon.
Right. So the horizon moves, right? It's very horizon moves.
It's a
variable.
No.
The horizon moves.
Of course, the horizon moves.
It's
Apparent
interesting, exactly. Interesting choice of words. The horizon moves. Well, to our eyes, it appears to move.
Yes, yeah, to our eyes it does. Because
Observable appears to move.
I always say
it's also fascinating that the supposed horizon that's blocking the 15 feet that a certain person who Jose told me not to name says it is, still wouldn't be where the physical horizon would be.
Of course not.
We live in an atmospheric, in a place with atmosphere. We need to account on it 100%
So
of the
we
time.
wouldn't, so we wouldn't expect for it to be Earth curve.
So, Chris, what about
What do you mean we wouldn't expect for the Earth to curve? The Earth curves. I mean, that's a fact.
We wouldn't expect for it to be Earth curve blocking it then.
So, Chris,
what do you mean? It is. I mean, it depends on the height. It depends on the
Is
distance.
it Earth
It
curve
is
blocking it, or is it fairy
depends.
fog?
It depends on the height. It depends on the distance. The Earth will be blocking it. The Earth curvature.
Well, actually,
so, Chris,
it doesn't
what about
matter
the
because we
days-
see so many examples where that doesn't even work. Your globe model.
What about the
doesn't work.
days when the second platform is seemingly blocked by the water? What about those days?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have
that image. Okay, the image that
Chris
Doof
never
just
seen a
mentioned.
clear image. Chris Berry never seen a clear image where things are obstructed from the bottom up without fog and without distortion. Chris Berry never seen that in the
He's
3,
making a
4,
random
5 years that
statement.
I've been here.
Hey, Jose, you see that? You remember that picture where that thing was blocked? You know that one, right?
Don't act like you don't know what we're talking about. We're talking about the black swan image.
There's a lot of black swan images from BL and SB69.
What about the ones where the second platform is blocked by the horizon?
It's
Or maybe a better question: why is that platform obstructed by the horizon?
Yeah, the one without
What's
distortion.
causing that without distortion?
Yeah, the
Why
one
is
that
it
doesn't have
blocked?
distortion in it.
Yeah, Chris, the one with no without the distortion,
Here we
with
go.
where the horizon is clearly in front of everything. That one.
Is that where is that? Are you saying that's the physical horizon?
Okay, wait. He has a problem. Wait, guys. He has a problem with
No,
every single
don't
horizon.
Don't feed into that.
I know, but like he needs to. Okay, this is what Nathan Oakley.
Wait, Seeker. Let
explain.
Chun-Ji talk to Chris for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So can you answer that part, Chris? Where if you're asking me where it's at, I can clearly see where it's at in both images.
What is it?
Actually, what?
What is it?
What are you talking about? The horizon? The optical
Your
location?
definition of is.
Yeah.
You said I can see it. What can you see?
Platforms.
Yeah, I can see the platform.
Okay.
Okay, and I can see the obvious obstruction on with no distortion.
Are you saying that obstruction's physical Earth curve?
Yes. What is obstructing it is physical. Yes, clearly, obviously.
Are you saying that that is where the physical Earth curve should be?
I am literally Earth curve starts at your feet, Chris. But we're asking about the picture.
I know where he's going.
The blockage.
What account to when there is no distortion and obstruction? What do you account for that?
Well, are you saying
Just say
that's
refraction.
physical
Say
Earth
refraction,
curve?
Chris. Say refraction, Chris.
He's asking you a question, Chris. He's not asking you to ask him a question back.
Yeah,
it's very
I'm asking you
simple.
a clear
What is
question.
your reason for that obstruction?
I don't know.
Oh,
Okay.
wonderful.
So Sean, not Sean, Chris, if you're talking about is that a physical horizon or an apparent horizon? Because I know that flat earthers like to toy with words, which is an appeal to definition, but I'm willing to go with that. It's okay. You need understand this. You need to have a physical horizon for there to be an apparent one. If you don't have a physical thing, yes, of course.
Yes,
Everything that you see, including the horizon that you see, is a physical geometrical horizon that is refracted and became an apparent one.
Okay, this is what happens, and this is what you're saying is correct, but it's how you're saying it that fuels what Flat Earth says. First of all, the horizon is not physical. The horizon is an optical spot. The location, you can have an apparent physical location, but it is not physical. The horizon is not. What makes up the horizon
water
is physical.
Don't Sean,
The water is
finish the point.
Well, their argument is always there's no geometrical horizon because it's always apparent. It's always optical. Well, you need a physical horizon for there to be an apparent one. They're making a logical error. They're making a non
Technically,
sequitur.
yes. Technically, both correct. Both statements are correct.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm not fueling the debate
underlying
for flat
physical
earthers.
geometry to be present.
Exactly.
For the refracted image to show you what you're seeing.
If the Earth was flat.
Well, hold on. All right.
Okay.
Geometry, guys.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Can you have a horizon on a flat surface?
Chris, there is. I mean, people keep mentioning geometry and geometric. I wouldn't agree with that, but I do agree. Physical. We see physical things because light interacts with those physical things, and that's the thing that we sense in the back of our eye. So yes, there is physical, apparent curvature there. When I look at the water covering something, it is physical water, not magical, not amazing-ical.
Physical
water
That's a new
covering
one.
something else, conforming to a curve. But one of the most damning things
That's a new one
isn't
on me,
the
Stinger.
fact
I have
that
to
it's
admit.
covering it.
Physical apparent.
The damning thing is that the whole thing moved down in contradiction to perspective.
Exactly.
And the only reason for that is it's following a curve.
Oh, the only reason. Actually, Tim Osmond has like 100+ reasons why things can be hidden from the bottom. Maybe you should inquire with him.
Chris, can
I'm
I
just
take you on a
curious,
logical?
why do you feel compelled to laugh and cackle and mutter under somebody as they speak?
All right, can we? I just want to ask one question before final thoughts, and then you guys can stay as long as you want. Why are these two photos to these two different days different, Chris? You answer that any way you want, and we can move on to final thoughts.
Very fault.
Hold on, Chris Berry. I'm sharing the image with the black swan, you call it, with all the yellow-like distorted image in the top and the more clear image in the bottom with obstruction. Why are those two different? Go ahead. Just Chris.
Well, we know it's not Earth curve changing.
I'm not asking you what is not. I'm asking you why are they different?
Well, let's get Tim Osmond's list of 100 things that can cause obstruction.
Can you mention one?
We'll
I'm asking you, and you telling me Chris Tim Osman is why they are different. Do you want to tell me why they are different? If you don't know, you can say you don't know off the top of your head.
You just want one?
I'm asking you a very straight question. Why are they not different?
One answer of many is refraction.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Can I just say,
let's get some final thoughts. Okay, your final thoughts. Go ahead.
sorry, I have to address something Chris just said.
And that's your final thoughts. That's going to be your final thoughts.
No.
Yeah.
How dare
We
you,
cannot
sir?
keep going. We cannot
My
keep going
lovely
back and forth because
presentation, you're going to do me like this.
if you ask Chris Berry a point or make a point to him, he's gonna want to answer, and I gotta get out of here. So we need to go to final thoughts now.
Just a quick thing. Anyway, I want to thank Chris Berry for exemplifying exactly the kind of behaviour we've been discussing for the entire rest of the show, including the thing I was going to address, which is being a liar and deceiver and avoiding giving answers. When he talks about Tim Osman's list, it's not Tim Osman's list, it's a flat earther list. Tim Osman curated some of it, and all of it can be found on Everett Anderson's channel. It is not Tim Osman's 100 excuses, it is Flat Earth's 100 excuses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris Berry, you want to get your final thoughts now? So it's fresh, if you want to address that.
I mean, I'm going to have to do a response to everybody, apparently. I trigger everyone every time I come in and spit the truth. They don't like it. The reason they don't like it is I debunk them with very basic common sense. Common sense answers.
Okay, common sense. Nice.
No interruptions. Chris Berry, start your time now of final thoughts. Nobody's going to interrupt while one person do final thoughts. Start over, Chris.
It's just funny, talking about cult. Well, it's not new to this arena. Obviously, there's been many cults over the years, and if you look at those, the cult themes, right? Like, if you do these 5 things, you're in a cult. Or if you couldn't so easily turn that around to the other side. You don't say, if you read the list and you don't say, flat earth or this, flat earth or that, it easily applies to globe earth. Very, very easily. Having faith in science, trusting scientists not to lie, trusting organizations like NASA not to lie, believing in government-funded schools, all sorts of things you could easily push back and spin and say, we aren't the cultists, you are, right? But they, the other side, the globe side, they don't think they can be in a cult, and that's the irony of it, is they are in a cult, but they don't think that. They think they're so smart. I'm so much smarter than a flat earther. They're so stupid. I would never fall for a cult, yet they're in one as we speak. That's the irony of the situation, but they won't ever realize that. And someone after this will be like, it's not a cult, blah, blah. And they'll go on and on about why it is and all these things. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. I just want to shout out the squeaky earth with the frogs. I just want to shout out the mini squeaky earth over here, the rumbling earth. And I want to shout out this small globe that I got here. And I want to shout out this other small globe, which is apparently the same size as this globe, right? That what you see? That's what I call perspective, my friends. That's what I call perspective. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Boom. Bro Alim, final thoughts.
Good job. Thanks, Al. And thanks to the Sea Lion. And thanks to the magic word, refraction.
Whoop, whoop. Brian Mabbit, final thoughts.
Are you going to stop me again?
You're gonna give your final thoughts. You got your full 60 seconds in. Go ahead. Nobody will interrupt Brian Mavet in his 1 minute rant.
The only cult that there is the heliocentric cult. You believe complete and utter nonsense, like straight lines are bent, like horizontal level is curved. You believe if you're watching the sun, you're actually going backwards at over the speed of sound. All these things are absolute idiotic, yet you believe them because you are in a cult. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Doofus Manfred has some final thoughts. He typed it here earlier. I mentioned to Chris, Doofus say, I mentioned to Chris that the horizon does not rise to eye level when measured from 20 feet AGL or above. Chris, exhibiting perfect cult behavior, regurgitated the Black Swan, totally unaware of the situation. Thank you very much, Doofus. We got Bro Watson, final thoughts.
Yeah. Even though Al K is just some kind of random Scotsman, and you know I hate those fuckers. I thought what he had to say was really, really good. I really enjoyed this episode, and as Al K and yourself said, you know, you don't want it all the time, but once a week maybe. I thought it was really good, and yeah, I'd like to see more of that, and it all made sense until Chris Berry joined.
Thank you very much. No, it was all Al K, man. I was just here as a supporter of him. I was this voice of reason, the illiterate version of I didn't know what I was talking about, but I got my own experience within the topic, so I was able to at least get some commentaries in between. Yeah. C4, shout out to C4. Chaik, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'll be short today. Yeah, the Earth is not flat. Thank you.
Thank you. Earth is life.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I love it when we get prime examples of the things that we're talking about. So if anyone was listening to what Chris Berry was saying or what Brian was saying, I'm just going to read one of the things on this list that someone posted. Cults convince you that everyone else is lying.
Uh-oh. No sound there.
No, I'm done. That's all. I just wanted to point that out. Perfect example. Everyone else is lying to you except them.
Thank you.
And then, let me read one more. Cults demonize education as indoctrination. So, perfect example. Thanks, Jose.
Earth is live. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Al K say thank you, Chris, Brian, for demonstrating the exact behavior outlined in the presentation today live in real time. Thank you. Gary Webenga, if you got some final thoughts. All right, we had 69 votes in the poll earlier. Are you enjoying the show? And out of 69 votes, 71% say yes. That was all over the top. So it was a big support about it being an entertaining and enjoyable show. Thank you very much. In second place came no, and I prefer a shit show. 10% of the people say they didn't enjoy the show. 10% of the people say I prefer a shit show. And then 8% say it should be like this every day. It's kind of the lower tier. So I'm not planning on doing a show like this every day. But at least once a week, I'm going to try to bring a specific topic and stick to it on the whole show. Maybe I end up with a boom, but that's right at the end. Hugh Janus, final thoughts.
Hey there. Yeah, great show. Really, really good. Al K, props again. I would encourage everyone on behalf of Jose, just want to say, if you have a topic of interest, do some research on it, even if it takes a month or more. Do some research on it and make a presentation and bring it in on the show. That'd be really interesting.
I like the idea, and if you are entertaining that idea, make some kind of representation, write your script, write your list of questions or comments, and then start doing a small monologue, about what you want to talk about, and then we'll take it point by point. We open the panel and we make it like this format, dynamic and question and comments and in between points. That's excellent. Yeah, I like it. J-Mac, final thoughts.
Really excellent show. Great presentation. That's the kind of thing I like to hear. I always wonder why they believe such crazy things. And that was a pretty good explanation. So thank you very much, Jose.
Thank you. Thank you. Kawasaki Ninja, your final thoughts.
Hello, Jose. How are you?
I'm excellent, man. You see me? Healthy,
good,
strong.
Good. You're looking strong, man. Yeah, good show. But it's like I said earlier, you say that Flat Earth is a cult. I say Globe Earth is a cult as well. But thank you for letting me speak.
You got
Cheers.
it, man. Anytime, man. Anytime. All is good. Let's get Left Lane. Final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Jose. It was a good show today. I just find it interesting that a small 1/10% or less of the population thinks that the 99.9% of the population is a cult. That's interesting. Thanks, Jose.
Jose, are you muted?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, he's muted.
No, I was, yeah. Merman, go ahead. Final thoughts. I was the opposite. I was muting when I was speaking. I was unmuting when I was quiet. What the hell?
No, good show today. It's just a perfect example of how Brian, Lemon, and even I forgot the last guy who just showed up, but it's a proven point that it is a cult, and they are going to regurgitate the whole thing over and over until their face turns blue. It's sad, but it is also entertaining. Boom.
Boom. What do you guys think about my 10-second presentation about this globe is the same size as this globe? Look at that perspective in real time happening. Clink. Cheers.
Oh, magic.
Magic.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
Shout out to perspective. Boom. Mojok Man, final thoughts.
Well, I enjoyed the show. I thought that was a nice presentation. I came in about halfway through it, so I didn't hear the whole thing. Maybe I'll go back and listen. All in all, I don't have a lot to say, so let's go on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Sean G. Are you back for final thoughts? You were AFK earlier. I guess not. Sean Smith.
Thanks, Jose. Yeah, it was a great show today. I'm super happy. I really appreciate Al K putting this on, and always appreciate you providing entertainment to us. So all the people out there in the audience, like and subscribe, and as always, the Earth is beautiful. That's all I got.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sean Smith. Thank you always for your support, brother. Okay, let's get Nestle Wipes, Lori, and the Stingray. I'll be back in a minute.
I've got nothing to say. Great show. Everybody won your best. Thanks to okay.
floor is up.
Yep. Yeah, this was a good show. Trying to think what I was supposed to say. I'm kind of tired because it's late here. I actually wanted to touch on one part that got mentioned. Like, I think it was Stingray mentioned the AI, and that's actually it's actually a kind of well accepted thing that yes, AI is connected to stuff like that, causing echo chambers online. But it's actually hard, quite easy to miss, because when we think about AI, it's easy to think about some like Judgment Day scenario, like Skynet or something like that. But AI is already controlling how we think, and Flat Earth and stuff going online is just one facet of it. Like, it doesn't actually happen like Terminator and Skynet just suddenly takes over. It creeps into our lives slowly, and then it's there, and we didn't even realize.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. Where were we?
My turn.
Ollie just spoke.
Go ahead, Stinger.
Since everybody's paying compliments to Al and all that, I'm going to give some criticism, because I think both him and John need criticism. I've heard them on multiple occasions. It's completely unacceptable. It's not acceptable to take the piss out of Dell. It really isn't. And I just see it that he has a much more manly and strong native accent than you guys, and all I see coming from you is jealousy. And I think you ought to reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Snesley Wives, the Lottie, the Stingray, and Wave Seeker. Final thoughts.
Yeah. So the only thing that for me that differentiates a cult from the truth is evidence. A cult is based on belief, no proof, and the only evidence that we see, even from the flat Earth, it points to a globe and not a flat Earth. So far, I've seen all the evidence from flat and globe combined. They all point to a globe Earth. Whether it's misunderstandings or misrepresentations from flat Earth, or forgetting to include variables, yeah, it's easy to see why the Earth is not a flat plane. Thank you. Boom.
Fairy fog. Fairy fog.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anybody want to do a last point? We gotta wrap it up for the YouTube live to listen.
Can I just quickly say that I wasn't sure how this show would pan out. It seemed like an interesting idea, but it could have taken a nosedive. It seems to have went down pretty well with most people, so I'm quite happy about that. So thanks to everybody for tuning in and listening and actually enjoying it.
Thank you, Alkay. That was really, really excellent presentation. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the discussion. It was really cool. It was really fun to have you all here. If anybody want to join the Discord server, the Daily Boom, the link is in the description box. Entertain, clicking the link and joining to listen. If it's your first time, myself or a moderator will give you speaking roles and posting roles, so you can look in the text chat and the voice chat. If you made it this far and you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do so now before you forget. And leave a comment in the comment section when the video is up and rendered on YouTube. The first comment, if it's YouTube friendly, if it's not a spam comment, will be pinned in the comment section. And if there's already a comment pinned, please leave another comment, because if you went in to leave the first comment, just leave an extra comment. The more comments we have in the comment sections, the more likes that we have in the live videos. I see in YouTube taking the recommending the video to the next level. So I think they recommend more when we got more interactions in the live shows and in the comment section. Share the show with people around you. Support. Check on the links on the description box. We are getting out of here. Jose JG out. Thank you very much, everybody. YouTube land. Boom. Creepy laugh.